The first game we look for, Robbie. Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away. Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away.
Good afternoon, UK. Good morning, the States. And if you're on the other side of the world in Australia, I think it's evening. So good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. Oh, we have a lot to talk about on this show. Title self-explained. Ange sacked. It was 50-50. Some people thought he was going to get the 10 games coming in. Some people thought he was going to get sacked as time progressed. And there wasn't really a statement from the club. Then you thought maybe the sack is coming. And yesterday it was official. But before we jump into the topics, man, it's the day after. Iggy, how are you processing it?
Well, yesterday was an eventful day from the afternoon all the way to the late evening. There were streams galore, left, right, and centre. And I did a video yesterday evening, and I'll tell you guys more than Ange in or Ange out, because at the end of the day, there were arguments for him to stay. There were arguments for him to go, and they were all valid. So, in my mind, I was prepared for both outcomes. I really was. I was prepared for both, and I was open to both outcomes, because a part of our fan base wouldn't have been happy if he had stayed, and a part of our fan base wouldn't have been even happy if he had gone. And this is where we're at today. But so I was prepared for both. I've made my feelings clear about Ange Postecoglou throughout the year and where I stand with it. I thank him massively for giving me one of the biggest and best nights that I can recall for a very long time, and to have given me that joy with my son, which he witnessed his first trophy in as a Spurs fan. He's 15 years old. He witnessed the first success and trophy under Ange Postecoglou. Big up, man. Under Ange Postecoglou. I will eternally be thankful for that. But here's where I'm at. Like I said, arguments for and against, by all means. The decision has been made, and now I can say right here, right now, that the next manager will have my fullest support. All right, but I'm looking beyond the next manager, like I have done for a long time now, and I'm looking at straight at the board. I'm looking at the straight at the owners. I'm looking at those who should be held accountable. If the managers have been held accountable, then the people that hire and fire those managers should also be held accountable. Something that doesn't happen. We're very quick as a fan base to point fingers at our managers and say he's good, he's got to go, We're very quick to do that, and that's absolutely fine. They are judged by what we see on the pitch. But when it comes down to the hiring and the firing, we are now manager 18 in 25, 26 years that these owners have been in charge. Mate, that is some serious numbers. And there's no accountability whatsoever for any of that. For me, the focus should solely be on that. Not whether the manager should have gone and should have stayed. That is relative to a point. But today, I'm sitting here thinking, and again, once the manager gets sacked, for whatever reason, even if it's justified or not, the ultimate decision has been made and the manager's been sacked. So therefore, for me, Project Postecoglou failed. Project Conte failed. project, and we can go on and on and on all the way through. Every one of those projects has resulted into failure. And for that, I want these guys to be held accountable. This is why I'm wearing a shirt today, because this has not changed my point of view. It's not changed my point of view before Ange, before Continuum, because this is a growing and it's a repetition. And we, just to conclude, guys, and you guys take the floor. To conclude, we will be back here, guys. It will happen in 6, in 12, in 24 months. We will be back here saying this over again. And it was last chance saloon. Roll the dice. There were so many that said this is Levy's last chance. We've heard so many of those. And yet here we are after another sacking.
Yeah.
Same rinse and repeat. Here we are again, boys. And girls, by the way, for those who are in the chat. Big up to everyone in the chat for joining in.
And good, perfect segue before I go to Dan and Matt, and then I'll give my view. Guys in the chat, honestly, if you're going to talk about somebody, first of all, I'm not going to post it on the stream, number one. And number two, there's no need. There's no need. So just as a respect, please stick to football. We all have different opinions. We shouldn't be seeing people's names or being called out. Last night, a couple people were vile. We're not going to have that repeat performance today. If me and Iggy see something that's very inappropriate, all we'll do is time you out. If it's real bad, we'll ban you. So we're not having that today. Thoughts, Dan?
Well, afternoon to everyone. For me, it was coming. I was pretty sure he was going to get the sack. But then there was that other side where it wouldn't have surprised me if he stayed either. I agree with what Iggy said. I do see two sides to this. But the side I'm on is he had to go. Finishing 17th, even though we won a cup, is not good enough. Not for a club of our size. If the man would have learnt to adapt earlier in the league, if he would have done other things in the league with rotation and things like that earlier on, not played main players when they're unfit and got them both injured in one game, and then we had to go without two centre-backs for nearly 3 months, that's all on Ange's head. That is all on where he got that wrong, so he had to take the shit for it as well. On the other side with Levy, we all know what the problem is at the club. We all know this one anyway. But then if Ange's going to get the credit for winning the cup, even though he made us finish basically one place above relegation, then surely Levy's got to get some of the credit for adapting his tactics and sticking with him and not doing what he usually does by sacking the manager, which no one could have really blamed him if he did sack him in January. That's what a lot of people was asking for. So why can't the credit go both ways? If you're just going to sit here and just hate all the time, there's going to be a lot of people who turn around and turn their back to it and just look at it as a hate thing. Whether we like it or not, I'll give him credit where it's due on that one. And a lot of people asking for so many years, Levy, do what is right for football, not is right for business. Do what is right for the club. Again, in this decision, I think he's done what is right for the club and the football. And that was getting rid of a manager that was obviously not good enough in the league. I appreciate the cup. Thanks for winning us the cup, Ange. Well done. Credit where it's due. No one else has done it. But at the end of the day, 17th in the league, 22 defeats. What was it? Over 26 during the season as a whole. I can't let that one go. If Ange would have just adapted earlier and not been so stubborn, he could have at least finished, I think, between 10th and 8th, even with the injuries. The injuries, last bit again, the injuries were no excuse. So a lot of people said. And for me, Ange had the easiest job ever a football manager has ever had in winning this fan base over. You all know my opinion on that. Kick the bloody ball forward and he won 90% of the fan base. Overdue time, he lost the fan base because 10 men in front of the ball wasn't working. And the majority of people all season on this channel, my channel, other channels and that, wanted him out. And then within a matter of 2 games and 90 minutes, sticking 10 men behind the ball, which isn't going to work over a season either, he wins the majority of the fan base back over. To me, that's too simple. I can't, over 90 minutes and that, I can't let that whole season go. If he would have just adapted and not been so bloody stubborn, more rotation and whatever, he could have still finished as 10th. He would have kept his job.
For me, Dan, this is where if he's gone because of what happened in the league this season, and someone came out and said, and this is what I'm led to believe. I've read this statement and I'm a bit. It was written in a very PR-y way, but essentially the moral of the story is that he got sacked because of our league, what happened in the league this year. If that's what I want to say, that's fine by me. My point is this: we was doing crap all the way through the season. He could have gone in December. He could have gone in January, February. There were so many opportunities and times where at any point he could have gone. He could have been sacked and no one would have said nothing because at that point, your Europa hadn't been won. We hadn't even started the second half of the Europa League campaign. So he could have gone at any given time. Why was it so important to keep him in at that time and not replace him straight away if we wanted to climb up a little bit up the table? Certainly, we would have climbed up more than 17th, in my opinion, if we replaced him. So if that was so important to us, why didn't we replace him beforehand? And 2, if people want to tell me, well, we kept him in a job because we had a chance at the Europa Cup. Well, we went on to win the Europa Cup. We still sacked him. So clearly winning a trophy wasn't important at any given time. It was important for us as fans, but it was important for this ownership. So why did we have to go through him in February, March, April, May? What was the point of it?
It's a fair point.
It wasn't a reason. It wasn't for the league because the league, we were shit throughout. So he could have been replaced any time. So every decision making that we did or didn't do this season, as the ownership I'm talking about, it was purely money related. It was,
of course.
I have to say it.
No, you're right. But I think it got to a point where Levy knew the season was screwed. Come love nor money, we weren't getting Champions League. And he wanted Champions League, come love nor money. We all know what Levy fights for. The only way of us getting that Champions League was us winning the Europa Cup. End of. Even if we'd have got a new manager in, we might have got 7th, 8th, but we weren't getting Champions League. Levy had a choice of 2 options, basically. Do I sack this man now and then pay him off and then try and find a new manager that can get me that Europa Cup? Or do I sit there and basically agree with the league's done, basically do what you can in it, but focus purely on that Europa Cup and I'll stick with you, Ange? I think that's the decision Levy had to make. I think he made the decision of stuff it, I'm going to take the gamble, stick with Ange, and it paid off. I personally think it's as simple as that. Because the Europa Cup was our only way in. We was all sure that we weren't going to get relegated because the 3 teams lower than us were just that bad. And I think that's the decision he made on why he didn't sack him. It was the option of either keep Ange to do this Europa Cup or I try and get a new manager in now in middle of the season, which we know is hardest to do to win the Europa Cup. That's how I see it happened. Personal opinion.
Absolutely. Just to quickly answer Ricky, Simone Inzaghi has gone to Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
How Hilal, I can't remember the name of the team, but you guys know the one I mean. Yeah, he's got a big fat pay packet, 25 million a year. He's gone. He's signed for them. He's their new manager. So Inzaghi will not be the next manager of Tottenham. Although for me, even if he hadn't signed for them, I still don't think he would have got it. It looks like it's heading between Thomas Frank as the main one. There's an outside chance of Marco Silva, but Thomas Frank is the one that's been most indicated as the next manager, which should be announced, I believe, on Monday. That's what I've heard. Don't hold me to that because no one at Tottenham knows. Not even Tottenham themselves know what's going on, let alone imagine us over here. But do you know what? Listen, you guys got to have your say. We'll go. Matt, obviously, Mari definitely has a lot to say on this. So take it away, Matt, man. Take it away.
I'll let Matthew go.
Yeah, listen, I think in retrospect, it ended up not being a surprise. I think potentially the timing is the only, as Iggy said earlier, why sack him after the final? And I think Levy budgeted on, if he'd have sacked him January, February, March, I think the relationship he had with the majority of the players, I'm not sure any manager coming in would have been able to kind of kickstart the Europa League performances to get us over the line. So I think Levy thought that, as bad as it is, I think if I can just get a tune out of Ange in the Europa League matches and we can get the trophy, you know, I've had double bubble. You know, we've got the monkey off our back by winning a trophy. My main incentive is the money and everything else that's going to come with the Champions League journey, and then arrivederci to Ange once the dust settled on the parade. So I think almost like with Conte, I think he knew that Conte was not renewing his contract, and I just think he was thinking Conte would still keep us in the top four, not knowing that the Southampton match happened and then Conte blew the place up. So I just think Levy, just from a selfish point of view, thought, if I can get a tune out of Ange in the Europa League fixtures, get us over the line, he'll get the eject button in June. And that's exactly what he did. I've got no personal kind of loyalty to Ange. I think he did an okay job in the Europa League. I think he struggled in the league. I think he underestimated the complexities of the Premier League, the complexities of the coaches, the complexity of the players. And I just think his formula, his KFC formula, works in certain countries. And I think he's come to England, and the longer it's gone, that recipe doesn't quite hit the tongue as well as it did in Scotland and in Japan and in Australia. And I didn't think he had a plan B. And the more times he was asked about a plan B, he dug his heels in even deeper, and he was stuck. So every time the kind of reporters asked him a question about, you know, deviating from his formula, he was like, "No, Sergio, I'm gonna do this more." And before you know it, you know, we've lost 15, 16 Premier League games. So when he finally started to be a little bit more pragmatic, the cast is die. You know, he was a dead man walking. So
yeah,
I'm hoping that I doubt it will happen, but I'm hoping the fan base will try and unite against the new manager. But I made a few bullet points, Mario. I'm literally going to be 90 seconds, and then I'll pass
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
Yeah.
I'll
Have you
pass
said
on
it?
to the rest.
As box office would say, make yourself known.
You know, but the kind of the intro, I would say, for the new manager, and this is just from YouTubers, this is just from the chats, this is just from, you know, people that have been on streams. So this is kind of what the new manager has to contend with. He has to play attractive football. He has to play in the Tottenham way, whatever way that is. He's also got to be defensively sound. He's got to play the kids, but he's also got to bring in some experienced footballers. He's got to make sure he doesn't lose to the bottom six, because shocker, if you lose to the bottom six, you know, that's the worst thing you can do. You've also got to make sure you don't get beat by the top six. You've got to make sure your marquee signing, your record transfer, does not exceed £90,000 a week, because that accolade goes to Dominic Solanke. To put that into perspective, Danny Ings at West Ham was on £125,000 a week. So this is Tottenham Hotspur, that finished 5th in the Premier League last season, break their transfer record and sign Dominic Solanke who was on £90,000 a week. Gabriel Jesus at Arsenal is on 265 a week. So I just wanted to kind of give some numbers to see when fans are talking about Dominic Solanke and talking about Tottenham and we are Tottenham Hotspur. Let's explore. Yes, we are Tottenham Hotspur. Why aren't the fans asking the question? Why have we broke our transfer record, but only paying that record transfer £90,000 a week? And he's our number 9. He's the guy that leads our attack. We're paying him less than Danny Ings, who cannot touch the pitch at West Ham. We also have the lowest wage discrepancy to turnover in Europe. That doesn't get talked about enough. We also talk about why can't we get Eze's? Why can't we get these certain players? Newcastle, who were 18th in the league in January, signed Bruno Guimaraes and paid him £160,000 a week. So this theory now that Tottenham can't get players because we finished the season in 17th. Why did Bruno leave Lyon comfortable? And if he'd have waited, I think, to the end of that season, there was Arsenal and there was other clubs looking at Bruno. Why did Bruno leave Lyon and go to a team that was in the bottom 3 of the Premier League and had been in the bottom 3 of the Premier League for most of that season? Why did Bruno go to Newcastle? Because they put £160,000 a week on the table for him. Why did Kieran Trippier leave Atletico Madrid? They just won the league. He had offers in other countries. Why did Kieran Trippier go to a team that was in the bottom 3 in January? Because they put £130,000 a week down on the table for him. So I don't see enough people when I'm watching these streams and they're doing their podcasts and they're posting Excel spreadsheets of how many points per game and how many losses and so forth. It's a valid point. But why don't we examine the guy that orchestrates all of this? Why don't we have enough streams on Daniel Levy?
Where did Brentford finish?
Hang on. I'm only going to be one more second.
Sorry.
So he's also the new manager. Don't experiment in cup competitions. Don't experiment. Don't make 6 or 7 changes and get beat by Fulham in penalties. Don't experiment. Because if you experiment in cup competitions, the Carabao Cup, and you get beat by penalties, fan base is going to come after you. Poch finished 5th in his first season at Tottenham. And after that, never finished below 4th in the Premier League. That was not enough. That was not enough. He was labelled as always the bridesmaid, never the bride. So as a fan base and as a new manager, I would ask him, be very careful. Be very careful. Because we've got Dominic Solanke, who works hard, but doesn't score goals. He gets criticised. We've got Brendan Johnson, the fan base says doesn't do a lot else, but scores 18 goals in a season. So we've got one player that doesn't contribute apart from scoring. He gets criticised. We've got another player that leads the line. Granted, needs to score more goals, but he gets criticised because he's only scored 9 Premier League goals in his debut season, playing under a new manager, under a new system. That's the end of me.
Just one quick thing then, Matt. Brentford finished 10th, 56 points, 18 points in front of us with a +9 goal ratio. We finished 38 points, -1, and Brentford have a salary that is 19th lowest in the league.
Yeah.
Do you know what, though?
Go ahead.
Here's the thing, right? Big up, Bash, by the way, man.
Big up, man. Big up.
Here's the thing that as a top six club, right? Top six, and I use that word loosely because whilst the size of the club may be top six, how we act for me is not. It's not of top six. I don't think we're in the top even top 8, 9, possibly. But we always seem to go for managers who I mean, this season we were 17, so there's 16 other teams who were above us. Everyone was better than us then in terms of the league, but by the 3 that went down. But we always seem to go for managers. And again, listen, I'm not digging Frank out or whoever the next manager is going to be. Far from it. I've said it in the beginning. I will support any manager that comes in on board. But we cannot attract managers of where the stature of the club is or above. We always seem to attract. Not that Brentford. Brentford is a mid-table team. I think we can all agree mid-table and probably a bit lower and so forth. But let's just say, for argument's sake, it's mid-table. That is the level that we can attract. It's managers that want to move up, and of course, Tottenham, in respect to Brentford, would be a move up. But those are the level of the managers we can attract because they will look to come upwards. We can't attract managers because we don't pay the money. I think that's very clear. So that argument for Simone Inzaghi would completely be out because we don't pay that level of money. So they're out. When we have paid money to have those Conte in, but that hasn't worked. So we've attracted the elite in Conte and Jose. Didn't work. We attracted the Ange Postecoglou's. Hasn't worked. He's bought us a trophy, and trophy is not a priority at this club because he was going to get sacked regardless because it was clear it was to do with what happened in the league, which I will say again, if that was the case, we could have got rid of him any time of the year, could have got sacked and it would have been justified. So if the Europa wasn't the thing, I don't understand why we didn't sack him before because there was no importance in winning the trophy. So for me, what can the next manager come and do? What would he come and do? Bring us up the table, which is something that for me can be easily done because we finished 17th. So that isn't going to be too much of an issue. Champions League football. Whoever comes in has never dealt with a team that's been Champions League football, domestic. He's going to be 24/7, be involved full on, 3 games a week. So whoever comes in has never experienced that before. Will he be a better coach? Probably he'll be better than Ange Postecoglou for sure. And the players that we have. But again, I'll say this again. For me, we will be back here because it doesn't matter the level of the manager you get in. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. If finishing up as high as possible in the league is the only thing to look forward to, for me, I don't get excited by it, man. I really don't. I really don't get excited. What I do get excited, I was pissed about the whole 17th, but I got excited at winning the trophy. That I did get excited about. So for me now, I'm at a lost cause, man. I honestly, I'm sitting here today and I'm thinking, what is there to be excited about next year? Because we're doing this all over again. And guys, I know that I'm aware that Ash has got to talk. We haven't heard what Mari's had to say yet, so let's go around.
I'll vomit so I can have Ash and Michael big up have their say. As I hear everybody, and you guys know, I was actually the first Ange out on the channel pretty early. That was coming from last season, and it was more Ange out and then became Ange out because just his early comments of just not adapting to crossing over the line and getting a trophy, which surprisingly, to everybody's surprise, he did it in the Europa League. And so I say thank you for the trophy. I say thank you for the 90 minutes. There was an ugly 90 minutes for the trophy. I got to celebrate for the second time and really count the first time because I was wet behind the ears, a newborn baby, when we won the Carling Cup. But when we won the Europa League, I saw that this club is a big club, and I love my club. And because of that love, it is going back to, because of course we'll talk about Levy. We'll definitely talk about the statement. I have it, but I think some people forget about how horrible this season was, how hard it was to watch, to be checked out, not at the end of the season, be checked out at the beginning of the season. Big up to Tans, who's on X, and Tobes. And I'm going to steal Tobes' line here, because this is what I 100% agree with Tobes. That's Tobes. He's another streamer, and he's on the Big Six show. He says, I've seen on here to justify what can be described as poor football management is scary. Ange is a nice guy, which that's debatable, because I have said on here his press conference, the whole cupping in the ear, was unacceptable. But 90 minutes, it was forgotten, apparently. But Tobe says he was actually, for a large 18-month sample size, comparing that to 1 or 2, 3 games. The sample size in comparison to those, the Frankfurt game, followed by the Bodo Glimt, it's like you have to look at the sample size of Ange, and it was atrocious. I mean, like Matt was saying, yeah, we could put all the stats, which I agree with. Well, the spending, sorry, wrong one. 21%, 22 losses, 17, 10 home losses. It's unacceptable. It is unacceptable. And for me, some of you know my profession is as a school counselor. I deal with students and families that have feelings, but being able to enact on those feelings, you're gonna need logic, facts, solid solutions to be able to solve whatever problems that you're feeling about. And in this case, going into next season, I had a lot of qualms in regards to injuries. Look at his injury record. I mentioned on the last show, a few details that injuries are not going to go away with this guy. Then I looked at his coaching in regards to youth, where it seems that we have a project youth with this club. We're interested in a 19-year-old. I'm like, is this guy really good with the youth? So those are things I factor in. Then one thing I factor, I think that most people know, but also some people forget, and it was right before the sacking, and I have it here. Rival managers sense a vulnerability in Spurs. You can see what their ideas are very clearly. This is from The Athletic. Said a coach at a rival Premier League club who wished to remain anonymous to protect relationships. They play with a lot of players in their front. They're good at the high press where they score a lot of goals. But when their fullbacks are both up, leaving big spaces down the sides, you could kill them. That's just one guy. Kevin O'Neill, other managers. So for me, I'm looking going to the next season, as much as the trophy was great and celebrating that, and for me it was 2 weeks, but I'm ready to move on. I'm looking at the next season and how the outlook is going to be. And it was just that we had to bring a different manager to come in, especially in the league, let alone the cups, the domestic cups, right? 0 for 4, right? Domestic cups, I feel, going to be a bit stronger. Teams are ready doing moves in Premier League. And then we don't have an Europa League to fall back on. We have the Champions League. So, it's a lot that I said, in regards to Ange being sacked. I might as well say this and then throw it to Ash and then Michael and then big up to Lubo who's come in. Because I did post it up. The club statement, now I just want to focus on the part where it says that we have made what we believe is the right decision to give us the best chance of success of going forward. It wasn't an easy decision. But I want to go back to this. Yeah, this has been one of the toughest decisions we had to make. It's not a decision that we took lightly, nor we had to rush to conclude. Look for the part where he was just talking about emotions. Yeah, okay. There it goes. We cannot base our decision on emotions aligned to this triumph. Don't get me wrong. I am 110% Levy out. But I will give him this credit. It's the same thing I'll tell to my students. It's the same thing I'll do in life experiences. For me, I was going to get married. I looked at the red flags, emotions. If I went with my emotions, I would have been married. But I went with my head. I went with the red flags because I didn't want a future divorce in my future. And a close friend of mine who also went through that same experience. Even in businesses, like, you don't make big decisions based on emotions. You look at the facts that I mentioned in regards to injuries, tactics, other factors in coming to that decision. So I give Levy and the board credit in regards to I'm trusting they looked at all the things that I've mentioned and more in regards to making this decision, because it could have been really easy, right? You're going to fire a manager who just brought you a European championship, 41 years. Like, you're going to do that? So I will give them that credit that they were able to remove themselves from the emotions, the high of winning the Europa Cup, and get into the meat of potatoes of, okay, what do we have here? This manager is out of his depth. Yes, he was able to solve and, everything in line in regards to Europa League to be able to get over the line. But other than that, the totality of Ange, he is one of our worst managers outside of the Europa League glory. And so I know I said a lot because I'm going to let everybody talk and I'll shut up for the rest of the show or at some points. But yeah, I'm going to throw it to Ash. Ange has been sacked. But also I mentioned statement from the board, so you could talk about both. Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, gentlemen. Thanks for having me on my
amateur hour, Ash. Amateur hour.
But yeah, as I was saying, big up to the chat and big up to the panel, apart from Michael. Yeah, I'm joking. Okay. No, but yeah, man, listen, it is inevitable. I don't know if it was necessarily just Levy. I'm going to say, look, Vinay was coming in. He's a new CEO. He's probably going to have or want to have things his way, and he might have a different direction. He would be less emotionally attached to Tottenham as well when making a decision, and he knew you had to make a big impact straight away. He would have looked at the league position. He would have had discussions with Levy during that campaign before any Europa Cup was lifted. And then also you've got Paratici, who was still a consultant, who we know is not a massive fan of Ange as well. He doesn't like. He prefers more pragmatic football from the coaches that he's picked. If you look at the evidence, you're looking at Conte, you're looking at Nuno, even some of the managers we were linked with before the Conte appointment, those managers weren't necessarily forward thinking. So I would say those guys in his ear would have made that decision. And we know notoriously that Levy, if you're not in that top 4 conversation in that league campaign, he's going to judge a manager off the base of that. So that's my thought on the actual board and the situation. I Donna Cullen going, I'm not sure if that was planned like a year ago, or the fact that Vinay is coming in as a CEO and a PR merchant, that her job was no longer required because that's what she does. She does a bit of PR. And I don't know if also his role coming in, there's more of a shake up to say, look, now everyone's job, you have to re-interview for your job, because when a new CEO comes into a building, that's what normally happens. You have to reapply for your job to say why you're going to be, why your role is important, number one, and what you actually do, what your performance level has been at the club. And they did say that everyone was going to be looked at, and we know not just Postecoglou's gone. Before Postecoglou went, Ryan Mason left, and we know now that a few other coaches have followed him. In Jananek is gone, Montgomery's gone, and Radamu, the other coach that was alongside him, he left also as well. So there's been a large shake-up in the coaching staff as well. But yeah, I mean, without being such an echo chamber, I mean, I have to agree with most of what you guys have said. I did send Mari something because I wanted to discuss it. I don't know if you can bring it up, but I just wanted to have a look at this and look forward to the new manager. And if we can manage those injuries, I know we're still going to have 2 games a week, but surely we won't have the level of injuries that we faced last season. And therefore, I would expect us to finish higher up in the table with the current squad. I know there's a lot of players that are unhappy at the moment because the manager's gone and they're looking for a way out, and they're looking maybe that. I honestly think how they looked at Postecoglou was more like a father figure. I remember hearing Basuma at the start call him uncle, dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my guy. I see Porro, he's putting up statements, but I get it. Like, Arteta did the same thing. I've seen it with other managers. What they do is they visit the family. Mourinho was really good for doing that, like talking to the family and calling them up and asking how, like, how's Sarah? How's the kids doing? Do you know what I mean? And then I remember that, I think it was the ex-Everton player that used to play for Australia, Tim Cahill. He was basically the manager, a captain of the Australian side. And what Postecoglou did, he created a whole video and a whole slide dedicated to him. And he got the whole dressing room in, and they did, like, for the next 20 minutes, they just literally reviewed his life, said, oh, this is why he is where he is now. He's a fighter. He came from nothing. He's had to fight hardships. And by the end of the video, Cahill was in tears. He was crying. He hugged Postecoglou. So I know for a fact that he would have done that with some of these players by reading what some of the comments they came out and said. And that's the reason why
he did it in the final.
That's the reason why. Yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, they got the job done. Whatnot. So, irrespective of that, they play for Tottenham Hotspur. They play for our club. I couldn't care less, bro. You got to you pay your salary. We're the fans, and that football moves on. Like, it happened to Poch. It's happened to better managers. Do you know what I mean? Bring up that slide. Yeah. So basically, about the injuries, like I was saying before, I don't expect to see this level of players to be out. And as you can see, there's a 75% to 100% marker, and there's only one player that made it past 75%, which is Pedro Porro. In between that, you've got 75 to 50% of the season, squad minutes in the season, playing time in the Premier League, not in the Cups, in the Premier League alone. So I would look at that, and you've got over half the squads in between 75 and 50%, and then the rest below that. I know some are fringe, some aren't regulars below that, but it's a squad game in the Premier League. You need your squad players there. And so I would expect us to have less injuries, to push up the table, surge up the table. It won't be as bad as what we saw this season. And if the next manager is Thomas Frank, I know he hasn't got European heritage, he's got no experience, etc., but I don't think Spurs are ready for Champions League football, if I'm being totally honest. So if we are to get moved to in the champs, if we are to get punched up, it's because we're not meant to be there. We've taken that leap a little bit too early, and we're not going to be like, for example, Aston Villa, just to put it into context, to see how bad of a job that Postecoglou did. Emery had to juggle European Cup competition and the Premier League, and he still managed to get fourth when we got fifth. That should have been fourth for us, for Postecoglou. Do you know what I mean? And he pipped us to fourth space that season. Fast forward it to us this season, we're juggling two competitions, Thursday, Sunday, as he said, as he quoted. He couldn't handle it. So I think the board looked at that and said, if you can't handle two fronts on the lower spectrum in the lower league in Europa, how are you going to handle that at an elite level when you're playing in the Premier League and the Champions League? Do you know what I mean? You're not going to be able to low block all your Champions League games. You're not going to be able to low block all your Premier League games and say that's adaptation. And you're going to want to play high obtained front-footed football. And a lot of coaches, have you already said, Mari, had figured out the playing style. And I think football's changed slightly. And that's why you're seeing elite level managers like Pep saying, we have to change the way we play. We have to move like the Brightons. We have to move like the Bournemouths. Do you know what I'm saying? Ange wasn't quite happy to tweak, irrespective of the injuries. So if he got injuries again, how would he navigate the third season at that level? So that was my concerns. That was what I was looking at. But I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what I had to say, man. There's other things as well. Like if we were to get, the players in that everyone asks for, I just don't see us. And this is where you guys will probably disagree with me. I don't think Spurs are that type of club where we go out and we compete against Newcastle's. And I say this from history, bro. Like when I was growing up and we were competing for players like Damien Duff, I remember, was at Blackburn. I wanted him so badly. Newcastle blew us out the water for wages. Do you know what I mean? And I knew from then, underneath this ownership, we would never compete for players against our neighbors or even teams below us in terms of wages. We always tried to buy players that are unknown, like your Luka Modric. Luka Modric was at I forgot the name now.
Dynamo Zagreb.
That's it. It's just got out of my head. So he was at Dynamo Zagreb, unknown player. We got him quite young, and we kind of build those type of players up, a bit like what you're seeing with the Lucas Bergvall, and we're now linked with Frank Froholt, another Scandinavian player from FC Copenhagen. So we're that type of club, whether we agree with it or not. That's the type of club we are. We kind of get the unknown player. They're fairly young, and then we build them. Whether our manager plays them or not, or plays them in the right position, I know Luke was speaking about Archie Gray there. That's up for another conversation. Do you know what I'm saying? But we operate more similar, I'd say, to, and I wouldn't say Liverpool, but Liverpool, they promote. So they got Robertson from Hull, for example. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They promoted their academy players like your Harvey Elliott's. Do you know what I'm saying? From their academies, I forget everyone's. My mind's gone today.
Curtis
Jones, exactly. So they promote their youth, they promote their academy, and then they might get in like a Emmanuel Sane from a Southampton, for example, which we could do, innit? We could get those, but they don't really compete when it comes to like bidding wars. They normally lose it, or they don't really go for it at all. Do you know what I'm saying? And in terms of wages, they don't go. Well, this season's a bit different, but they don't really typically go mad for wages. So they're like, I see Liverpool, a high level Spurs, where they do the whole kind of data analytics, whatever you want to call it, but they are more of a builder club themselves, just but at the higher level. Do you know what I mean? They took our scouting people, Michael Edwards, all the rest of it, Kamoli's and all them, and then they patterned up on a better level. I'm saying, boom, Spurs still need to, again, yes, we still need that elite level experience, we do. But I can't see us doing it. I'm being totally honest. And I think that's the reason why we are going for coaches, because the coach is meant to get more out of this particular bunch of players that we currently have at the moment. Yeah. That's the reason why I think they've gone in that direction, because they're looking at Postecoglou. He's like, let the coaches do the work. I'm just setting the philosophy, and they got to stick against it. Do you know what I mean? And whatever the coaches say, nah. This is who we are, mate. This is how we're going to play.
He's the manager, isn't it?
Ash, all I was going to say to that, out of the 3 coaches that Mari put up just about a few minutes ago, I saw there was Frank. Yeah, Frank. I think out of those 3 there, Glasner will probably be the one, because he has had European experience. He's played in Europe. He's won a Europa. He's come to a team like Crystal Palace. He's excited us all with his football. He's a good coach. He can work with youngsters. He's also now brought in the FA Cup. So for me, right now, for all the reasons that you've just said in the last 10 minutes, all those reasons that you just said, I think he would be the perfect fix that would probably say, do you know what? All right, Postecoglou's gone. But this guy is a really good coach. He's got experience of European football. He has won a domestic trophy, and he's got some really. Palace is playing some really exciting football for large parts of the he would excite. I know Michael and Lubo have got to have their say in a sec, but
yeah, I just don't know if they did speak to him.
Out of those 3, go and get him, man.
I don't know if they did speak to him, and then that conversation was like I don't know if it was like. If it went according to plan, if they were like, yeah, they were in the front running for Glasner, and then all of a sudden something happened, because 1 minute he was linked to us strongly, and then the next minute it was 99%. Yeah, he committed to Palace. So I don't know if something happened at that board level where he spoke to them, and then the agent, and they couldn't agree on the fee, and what he was asking was, I don't know. But all of a sudden, like you said, we were distanced from Glasner, and the other 2 punches went above him. So it all comes down to availability.
Lastly, tactically, he would fit, because I really think we'd get more out of this team with playing 3 at the back. We've got 3 good centre halves, wing backs, Porro. We're set up to play like that, and I think you'll get the maximum out of this squad. And also by switching that formation, 3 at the back with the 2 wing backs, we wouldn't have to heavily invest on a lot of players. We'll have to probably have 3 quality players, and we're good to go.
Just quickly then, because I know Mike's got to talk, and we've got Lubo there as well. But this is quickly. With Thomas, and I'm sure Mike's going to touch on this, he has played the different formations. So even when he's played 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1 in his current system this season, he does pivot to a back 3 where he lets the 2 centre backs split, and he makes one of the double pivots drop into a 3, into a halfback, similar to what Potts used to do with Eric Dyer. Or sometimes what he would do is he will make the other double pivot. If one doesn't drop in between the 2 to make a 3, sometimes what he will do is he will make the other double pivot, drop into a left back role. If the left wing back pushes up or the fullback pushes up, he will make a 3 and they will come over. So they'll cover that space. But he has played a back 3. He has played a 5-3-2. And in possession, he does like to play a 3-2-5. So you've got 3 men at the back, 2 in front, sitting in front, and then the 5 across the box. So with Frank, he does adapt according to the opposition. He looks at it, and in-game management as well. He does tweak and he does adapt. So I know it's not quite Glasner, where Glasner is it's not as flexible, but he's got his philosophy, he's got his ideas, and it's more a solid back 3, and you got 3 centre back playing that position. But at least with Thomas, he's got the intricacy where he allows players freedom, but at the same time, he's got the structure where he says, all right, what we're going to do is I'm going to allow my 6 to drop in between the 2 centre backs. And then what I'll allow is that one of the wing backs or the full backs to get an overlapping run and add some ability to allow some room to throw crosses into the box. And that's what all Spurs fans have been asking for, right? So
it gives us that extra cover, basically, that Ange never did.
Exactly. So as much as you're right in terms of Glasner, like he's got the experience, he's got the heritage, but at the same time, I'd say with like there's the pros and cons to Thomas. Do you know what I mean? The fact that he hasn't won a cup or he hasn't gone deep in a competition is slightly worrying. He's never done it in Europe. Concerns. Do you know what I mean? But if you're talking about just pure football and you're talking about what he done on the pitch, in terms of actual goals scored, he's the 5th highest. He had his team as the 5th highest goal scorers in the league, and that's from a team that's meant to be in the championship. All those other teams that came up and went back down, Leicester, you're talking about Stoke, you're talking about what other teams came up and down. There's other teams, obviously, I can't remember off the top of my head. My brain's fried. I was up till 4 a.m. last night working, but I'm just saying there's other teams that have come up like last season, come up, come down, and he's managed to stay in the league for 4 seasons. And he's made them from just a team that's staying up, and he's pushed them into like a mid-table team, a team that's a Premier League team. Sorry. So, yeah, go on, Mike. Your time.
Go for it, Mike.
Yeah.
We'll leave Ash a break a little bit, and then we'll go Mike and then Lubo, and then we'll go back round.
No, it's a really weird time to be a Spurs fan, honestly, because I feel like as much as we kind of had a similar front before the final, now even us, as the lot that we speak, us as a group, we even split, right? Like Stelios has a much different opinion than some other guys, right? We are Tottenham TV have a different opinion than these guys and that guys, right? And it's really weird to watch it from not outsider's perspective, because I'm part of the community, right? But it's really weird watching what's going on with this fan base, right? Me personally, the thing that surprises me the most with what's going on is the fact that I'm watching different shows and I see some people with the opinion that it's outrageous that Ange got sacked. I've seen those type of opinions, right? That it's the biggest mistake and it's the it's unforgivable that he got sacked, right? And I'm just watching that, and for me, he deserves to be sacked. And even though he won the cup, right, there was 18 months of evidence that pointed to him not being good enough for this cup, right? That's how I look at it. And 90 minutes of football isn't going to change the fact that for best part of 18 months I was struggling to watch our games, right? That's the way I approach it, right? And yes, I was extremely happy when we won the cup, and past 2 weeks of being a Spurs supporters was amazing. Was amazing, right? We were all happy. I got shit-faced after the final, right? Like it was all fun and games, right? But right now we are back to reality, and unfortunately for me, the reality is that yes, we won a cup, but we also had the worst league season ever in the history of the club, right? That's how I look at it. So for me, when whoever made the decision, right? Because I don't think it was Daniel Levy alone. I don't think it was Levy just waking up one day and say, how the wind blows. Oh, wind blows that way. I'm sucking Ange, right? It wasn't only him. It was the whole board, right? Whoever was part of it, they made the decision. And for me, the decision is justified. I don't behold a grudge for making that decision alone, right? I can fault them for leading us to that moment, right? Because I think there were plenty of times before that final where they could have made different steps. Not only sucking Ange, I'm talking about like bringing in players, right? Supporting him more, getting him better coaching stuff, whatever, right? Where those steps, if they were taken, wouldn't lead us to where we are right now, right? But for me, as I said, cups are what the aim of football is, right? But league is how you build the form to win those cups, right? That's how I look at it. Because let's be brutally honest and take it to an extreme, right? You can win FA Cup while being in the championship, right? Like, why do we care about the league? If that's the case, right? Let's just F the league, surrender every single game, be rested up for the cup games, right? And just bank on winning the FA Cup or Carabao Cup. It gets us into Europe, right? I know it's an extreme example, but for me,
It's a fair point.
you have to care about both the league and the cup competitions, right? And for me, a club of our size being 17th, unfortunately, that's unacceptable, right? And as much as I like Ange, right, I even wouldn't mind if he stayed, right? I said it on your show, Dan, yesterday, that I'm kind of in that flip-floppish state where, you know, I would rather see Ange sacked, which happened, right? But I also wouldn't mind if he stayed, right? Because I think, like, with the overall, like, fans vibe, right? I think it was fair to keep him in the job, right? But also, like, fair from the point of view of the board, not from my point of view, right? But unfortunately or fortunately, we came to the decision that he is sacked, right? And my biggest worry right now is, first of all, that it again destabilizes our club massively, right? We are again at a point where, like, the club was a shit show before the final, even after the final, still like 17th, as I mentioned, right? But right now, we even chucked the manager out. We chucked the half of the board out, right? Like, we don't know what's going on. Again, as Spurs fans, we are left in that limbo state where we don't know what the future holds, right? Nobody talks to us. Nobody speaks to us from the club, right? It's not like we are, having our director of football sitting in front of us and telling us what's the plan and what's going on. And unfortunately, as much as I really, really like Thomas Frank, and I think he's a better manager than Ange, and I think he will do a better job than Ange, right? I don't think there is enough gravitas and prestige behind his name for this fan base to unite behind him, right? Unfortunately, I think we are at a point where so many of our fans, and rightfully so, I don't blame them for it, right, loved Ange for that cup, that replacing Ange with Frank won't make those fans believe, right? These fans will be on Frank's case from the beginning, right? No matter what happens, they will be on his case from the beginning, right? Because he's the next guy after the guy that won us a cup, right? And I don't know, it's just a shit show, guys. Like, honestly, I hope that they make proper decisions and stabilize the whole situation, right? And I will be, I am fine with the Frank appointment. Me personally, I will back him. I think he can do a good job. I just fear that the fan base won't, like, parts of the fan base won't be thinking like me, right? And unfortunately, I think it just leads to more destabilization, more, like, division in the fan base. And I just feel like the next season will be just like this one, just with a different manager. We will be fighting against each other, like, having different opinions on the manager, on the tactics, on the players, on everything, right? From YouTube perspective, it's good because it's content, right? But when you look at the club itself, I don't think a great future is ahead of us, unless there are, like, some major changes and everything lands, right? That's the only case where I see this club actually doing what Daniel Levy said. By the way, Daniel Levy said that we should use this cup win as a springboard, right? I just think this springboard is well fucked up, right? It's like the springs are, crooked and all that stuff, right? And we just have to land a lucky jump from the springboard, right? And if the luck is with us, we maybe can move on. But I just struggle to see the club moving forward, like moving into right destination. I just feel like we are well off course, and
it's just a merry-go. Lubo, you've seen it all, man. Big up, JP. Welcome and join, man. We'll come to JP straight after Lubo. Lubo, more than Ange and Anjat, because to me that's been talked about since the day after that cup final, and it's nothing's been spoken about since. So to go over it again for me will be pointless. It's done now. But here's where I don't even miss it. I said earlier, and I'll keep it brief. I said, look, I'm no longer looking at the manager. I haven't for a while now. I will support the next manager, whoever it is, whether it's Thomas Frank or any of the guys mentioned, or even some new surprise. Might be Mancini, who knows? But whoever it is, I'll be in support of those managers, because for me, I'm pointing the finger a lot higher than that. And You've seen it all, man. You've been a Spurs fan a long time, and 24 hours, or coming up near enough, 24 hours later, after the sacking of Ange Postecoglou, where's your heads at? Because last night we was all raw. Today is the next day. Where are you at with it all?
Where am I at? Been an interesting day. Got up this morning. We get the Mail and the Telegraph. Some really good, not Telegraph Times. Got some really good articles, both Ange in and Ange out, and talking about the club. And it's funny, Mofo at 2:04. The board said it's critical to compete on all fronts, referring to our 17th place finish. I'm going to get straight to it. At the end of the day, the board is tired. We need new people at the top. It's more, for me, the next week is more important about getting Levy out of being chairman and getting someone in, even if it's Charrington, which I'm reading could be an interim chairman. But we've got to change the mentality at the top.
Time for change.
Yeah, and from there, we will then talk to managers, and managers will see Tottenham in a fresh light, and they will be. It won't be a question of this board expect me to get them into the Champions League on a Europa League budget. Let's start with. I want to be successful. Just say I'm Frank or whoever. I want to be successful. I've got my ideas in place. What are you going to do for me? How are you going to help me as the owners to get to where I want to get to with your club? And I think it's been too long now. It's 25 years. This guy's been there 25 years. He's been there much, much longer than any other chairman. He's come away with 2 trophies out of 25 years. And we've had to watch. It's just been a mad season. This is typical Spurs. We've had our worst ever league season, I think, since the club started in 1882. Had there been 3 points per game the year we got relegated, we'd have finished on 45 from 42, 1.06 points per game. We finished with 1 point per game this season. We've never been this bad. Not even the year we were relegated in 77. Yeah, we've had a fantastic day at Bilbao. But for me, the question's always been about moving on. Could Ange take us on? I said no. I thought, great, thanks Ange for the memories, but we need a top manager. And then you go one step further and you think, great, we get a top manager, but the ceiling isn't going to be competing with the clubs at the top. We're going to be onlookers again. So for me, the key thing now is to get Levy out, to get this profit over glory mentality. The two of them should run side by side, because football's a business, we know that. Run side by side. Don't be silly, don't be reckless with the club's finances. Levy was reckless. He took a mad risk sticking with Ange. If that had gone wrong, if Mickey hadn't have made that clearance, if we'd have lost that game, where would we have been at 17th? No Europe next season. The club would have been nowhere. They would have been in the wilderness. And that is a massive risk for a club this great with their history and traditions. And that, for me, that just shows that he has no feeling, no empathy, nothing for the club, for the fans. That he was prepared to risk it, because Ange was, his last chance to get Champions League football. In his head, for all of us, would have seen the way the football was going. I'm sure there were far better managers out there after we lost to Ipswich in November that could have come in and taken us to Europa League glory. Ange's got it. The risk paid off. So he got lucky, right? I'm pleased he got lucky because obviously I love Bilbao and we've won a trophy. We're back in the Champions League. We've now got to move on, but we need to get rid of this mentality at the top. We've got to have a mentality where we've got owners who are desperate for this club to get back to former glories. That, we're going to be a European superpower. Aim for the top. Don't aim down there. All they did was aim down there. They never stretched themselves that extra mile, Enoch, to take the club. It was always, they're always risk averse. So for me, it doesn't matter who's coming in next. You're right, Iggy. They'll be out in 2 years' time. What difference whether it's Frank, Xavi, Iriola, Silva, whoever? They'll be out in 2 years' time, because you can't build a big club on you can't go shopping in Harrods with an IKEA budget. It's crazy, and that's what we've been doing for 25 years.
You know what? It just occurred to me now that new manager's first game is going to be against PSG in the Super Cup.
Good luck.
Oh my God! I just thought.
I think that one is going to be forgivable, though, isn't it? I mean, come on, it doesn't matter who the manager is on there. Go put Pep in with that Spurs team.
No, it's a given. But you know what a thing to come into straight away, man.
Yeah.
That is like Champions
League. Before PSG, we've got Arsenal in Hong Kong.
Oh yeah.
We got Bayern Munich at the Allianz, I think, and we're playing someone. I can't remember. We've got someone in Korea. So
we're Tottenham.
Yeah. Just big up
Newcastle and Arsenal.
Chat. I'm gonna answer this quickly and go to JP. Super chat. Thank you. If Conte won the Europa Cup and finished 17th, would you want him sacked? The problem I have answering this question is, it is impossible. The question does not make any sense. You're talking about Conte. Even with injuries, this guy would have made the adjustments to not finish 17th. If you told me 10th or 9th, okay, 17th. So my answer to this question, because I'm going to go on to JP, I think everybody here would agree that this question
it would never happen.
No, but I would say if Conte finished 10th, I'd want him out. Because Conte level, for me, that's not good enough. We finished 8th, without Conte, and we were having a meltdown. Do you understand?
Because it's Conte, your expectations are significantly higher because he's an elite manager, basically.
Dan, I don't think Conte would ever have finished 17th. He would have dealt with the league way before anything in Europe.
I'm saying, irrespective of that, though, if he was to finish 10th, forget 17th. If he was to finish 10th, most Spurs fans ain't having that. Go on, sorry. Go on.
You're right.
If we were close to 10th, Mari, if we were close to 10th with Conte, he would have probably murdered someone. Like literally, that's Conte, right? Like he wouldn't ever allow, his reputation to be tarnished like that, right? Let's be honest about it. He would probably murder someone rather than spend the rest of his time in jail, rather than being a manager of a club that's 10th, right?
He would have killed somebody before it got to that point. JP.
Conte's turned McTominay as the best number 10 in Europe, man. You know what I mean?
He's made him play. Syria, can you imagine what he'll do with Archie Gray? JP, man of wisdom, invoke your wisdom. And your thoughts. How do we move on?
I have missed out on what you guys have kind of not long woke up and kind of got up to speed a little bit. But listen, I said a little while ago, do you know what? If he wins us the Europa League, we'll say thank you very much and move on and crack on, right? That's my stance. The fact that he's gone now, I think it does make sense. At the end of the day, it's for me anyway. It's not really about the league position, whether we finish 17th or 16th or 15th or 14th or whatever. To me, it doesn't mean anything. It could have meant a couple of million quid for the board, but if we wanted to finish, if our board, and in that statement they came out with a message saying that he needs to challenge on both fronts. Did they actually give him any tools to challenge on both fronts? Now, personally, my view is the fact that the football that I saw in the Premier League and being a season ticket holder and going week in and week out towards the end, I pretty much didn't really want to go. There were games I just jacked in and said, I'm not even putting my ticket up for sale. It's just, it takes me an hour and a half couple of hours to get down there, watch the game, obviously meet some of the lads and stuff like that, have a couple of beers and another 2 hours back. That's what they've done, right? Where I could possibly spend a day doing something much better to then experience getting drubbed by Nottingham Forest or something like that. So I don't understand the statement by coming out saying we wanted to do better in the league. Did they just want him not to finish 17th, to finish 15th, to finish 10th? Would that really make that much of a bigger difference? To me, the fact that he won the Europa League, fantastic, brilliant, big kudos to him, first person to do it. You know, in the same breath, the statement comes out and says he's now written his name into the books with Bill, Nick, and folks like that, right? So to think of him at that level and then to get rid of him doesn't make sense. But in all honesty, in the league, his own actions are the consequences of what's happened to him, to be honest. The style of football, it wasn't really that great. The fact that we still played the high line with Ben Davis and people like that. Again, there was lots of decisions in that league or in his league teams, in his league squads, which literally meant I don't think he can hack it. I think we all said in previous streams, do you know what? He's a little bit out of his depth coming to the Premier League. It's not your Celtics. It's not your Japanese league, etc. You don't really have the best players. You have to be able to be compatible. You have to be able to maneuver each team. You don't have the players to go out and stick your philosophy and say, this is just exactly how we're going to play, because you don't have the players for it. And just understanding that and making that decision in his own mind, being stubborn, you know, like be stubborn. But if you're going to be stubborn, you know, like you got to take the consequences of it. But you can't be stupidly stubborn. there's like no point being stupidly stubborn. Let's play the high line. Let's play. Who was it against bloody Arsenal on the left? Like you're playing Ben Davis against Saka and people like that. You go. You have to be a little bit sensible in games. You have to have in-game management. That's what a manager is. That's what a manager's task is. That's what a manager's role is. What you could just get. Excuse me. You could just get anyone prior to the game just going, this is how we want to play. Let me draw some maps. Go out and do it. Go out and do it. I don't care whatever happens on the pitch. You guys need to follow this. Anyone can do that.
JP, do you think the fan base would have felt different if the cup final was played in March and we still lost the amount of games we did afterwards? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
do you think it would have been a different outcome, like
listen,
how the fan base is reacting now?
The last game, man, we got drubbed. Went 1-0 up, got done. Right? That's 22 games we lost. That another record. 22 league games we lost. Nobody cared about it.
Also, to follow up on
at that point in time, at that point in time, no one cared about it, but because everyone was on the high of winning that Europa Cup. Right, 22 games in the season we've lost. People should have been pissed, but everyone was still on the high. The fact that we just won a cup, it kind of didn't matter, right? So I think to answer your question, actually, right, because if we would have won it earlier, everyone would have still been, okay, didn't matter. But the right decision has been made for him to go, I think. What I will say is, before we let everyone else chat, was the fact that if it's Thomas Frank, I get the fact that we want to be able to take it on to another level now. Does he give me any enthusiasm, any happiness? Do I feel like kind of like anything different from it being Thomas Frank? No. You say, you know, kind of like we're talking about just now. Do you know what his first European game, or whoever the next manager's game, first European game is going to get against PSG? Listen, PSG are going to dump a hell of a lot of teams, all right? But if you have a manager with a bit of kudos now, that's at the helm of Tottenham Hotspur, you can almost feel, all right, well, I feel a little bit more confident about going against PSG, even though we are going to get thumped like it will, whichever manager goes against them now. But it kind of doesn't really feel that we're going to go up a level now. Thomas Frank, he seems to be a good manager, right? He speaks well. I think he can communicate fantastically You know, he seems likable. He could probably get a good tune out of a lot of the players. And again, last season we said, another manager in here, do you know what? Another manager gets more out of these players. And I think he probably will get more out of it. Is he a manager to take us on now? Again, we have to ask ourselves, what is our expectation for next year? What do we really want next year? And then see if the club match that with their purchases.
Good question.
I put the subtitle moving on. That is the $1 question. Though I give them credit in the process of getting to their choice from their statement. Now, the flashlight is it's on Levy and the board, and they're already late. Because I'm looking Chelsea, Liverpool, like everybody in regards to the big six are making their moves. You would think after this, because it's weird, there's a 10-day transfer window that Villa and Newcastle are working behind. And with our structure, it is, I don't know, even with Venai and Paratici coming in, you know, there's still not a trust, and rightly so, because of 25 years, the resume, the CV is terrible. And that's what makes it difficult because, you know, just from my standpoint, not everybody, but my standpoint, you know, bad manager to go on, right? At best, stopgap. Congratulations, you got us. You know, you got us the trophy. But moving forward, it's like, okay, how does that look like? And you know, and there's a lot of things that come into question. You know, the pressure is going to be on Levy and the board 3 times over because now you have a mad fan base. You're going to have some people joining. And yesterday on Dad's show, I call them frauds because now you have some extra people I'm seeing today. Oh, I'm Levy out. I'm joining the protest. And, you know, my cry yesterday was, where were you when we sacked Poch, Conte? You know, like, you know, where were you when we sacked Jose 5 games before? Like where were you? And now you're here, right? So there is a lot of questions other than the managerial candidates, and it's confusion. I said that a couple streams ago. Confusion, and despite we got clarity, and I'm happy to have that clarity of Ange being sacked, there's still confusion. I'll throw it to anybody.
Mario, for me personally, and in addition to what you just said, my worry is more as well. The external ones is like, you know, something that the club can't really control. That's us really, what we do. But for me, it's more internal that I'm worried about. Ash mentioned something earlier on about the players and how they will feel today and what the outcome of that will be, because they were really tight. It appears anyway that they were tight with Postecoglou. And it made me reflect when he said that and thinking, you know, some of our bigger players in the team, Porro, Romero, you know, they could decide, you know what, this ain't for me, and we're gonna have to deal with the backlash of that, and we may have to get them out, and then, you know, that's another whole load of recruitment. And it's not just the recruitment of the players that you need, but now we've got to look at players that we potentially have to replace, and these are big names in our team, so we have to potentially look to replace them as well. So we won't know the real backlash, if you like, of Postecoglou's sacking within the Tottenham Hotspur camp, and how they will all reflect on holiday right now and say, do I really want to go back to a manager that perhaps they've never heard of? We've heard of him, but they might have thought like, you know what, I've got someone with him, and we're all looking forward to going again next season, fresh from winning that trophy, and now it's gone. I don't know how this is open to you guys, all of you. Feel free to interject and come into it, whichever wish. I know we're going to probably talk over each other a little bit, but you know what? It doesn't matter.
Do you think the players were actually playing for him at any time? Like after it got to January and that, do you think the players were really playing for him? Because for me, it did not look like it. On the pitch, half of them, they weren't even putting their effort in. People were saying that when the B team was in there as such, or a lot of the second team players, why weren't they putting the effort in? Why weren't they giving everything? Why weren't the other players doing it? Yet they're meant to be willing to walk through a brick wall for Ange now because they won the cup. For me, they didn't do that for Ange. They had to tell Ange, from what I read, how to play bloody football and adapt, for God's sake. If they were so much behind him, then why was Maddison and Son sitting there going same shit every game? And you could clear as day what Maddison said there. It didn't take Einstein to lip read what he said. What is that? They're all behind him now. Or was it the fact that I think they played for themselves in the final to get the cup, whether it was for us, whether it's for Ange, whether it's for them, I couldn't care less. They got the cup. And obviously they're going to come out of it high as a kite and whatever, and they're not going to stand there and slate the manager off and everything. So I think all this relationship he's got with a majority of players is just total BS. Couple of players, yeah, of course Udogie's going to love him off. Spence was the best player we had for 2 months, nearly 3 months, and bang, drops him straight away as soon as Udogie comes in, who's had a crap season. So of course Udogie's going to love him off. Porro's going to love him off because he always got picked by him. But a majority of that team, I'm sorry, they was not fighting for Ange. If that was a team fighting for Ange, then I'd hate to see a team that didn't give a shit about the manager.
Do you know what the funny thing is? That Dansto put a like on a post, about protesting and stuff like that. He actually liked it. So I don't know, man. I'm like, and this is a player that's been in and out of the team.
It is, isn't it? But does any of it make sense that they was playing for Ange?
Yeah, but
maybe on that last game, maybe they did play.
Semi-final.
You know what it is?
Final, I would
players,
say.
I think players are flip flops. Like, you know what I'm saying? They're like,
Also,
no,
like,
100%, bro. Like
also,
when you win the cup, it's not the same thing you're saying when you're losing. You're getting punched up 4-1, losing 3-1, 2-1. Oh, it's always the same thing. But when you win a cup and you go on that bus parade, bro,
I love you.
I
love everyone.
You know what I'm saying?
Guys,
So
first of all, they were drunk off the nut.
Look at the whole season. Sorry, Mike. Just a bit. Look at the whole season. They loved Ange.
Yeah.
If that's love, well, then I don't want to be then I don't want to be loved like that. I'm not saying no one hated him, but there is no way you're going to make me believe, apart from in that semi-final and final, that they might have been playing for the manager. No chance. Look at the way they played all bloody season, and a lot of people were saying you could see he's blatantly lost half that dressing room and whatever. Just walking about the pitch, not getting on with how Ange wants them to play and everything, and that they was not playing for Ange that season. Last 2 games, semi-final and final, I can go with that. But during the season, that is really how you play for a manager, that you walk through a brick wall and love.
Well, also you got to remember, during the league, we never had, especially like the last part, we never played the Vicario, Romero, Van der Ven, triplet combo. And I remember Robbie Keane coming out and said, look, if I was missing my centre backs, like, I don't know how I'll get through the line. Centre backs are like the staple of your team. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know if the league thought, like, obviously we know the injuries were Postecoglou's fault because of the style of play, and he obviously chose to look to prioritize the cup over the league, innit? Do you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying if Mickey Van der Ven and Romero were there that we win way more games, but at the same time we have to be honest, we're not going to lose as many if they were playing. He just thought, why risk it? Because the time I did risk it and I put them in early against Chelsea, look what happened. They got injured again. So better that I just go for the cup where it's an easier run that I can get something out of it than risking playing against games that don't matter. Do you know what I'm saying? So we've got to factor that one as well. That's going to affect the way the team plays, bro. Go on.
Two things. Like, first of all, I think the players were behind him also because he kept defending them in the pressers, right? Like, let's be honest, some of these players came off of 2 managers, Jose and Conte, that weren't afraid to throw players under the bus if they didn't perform, whereas Ange put all the blame on himself, right? Which some respect to him, because that takes balls to always keep all the attention on yourself, right? And second of all, sorry, Stelios, right? But like, fans that want him sacked aren't losers, right? Like, how is wanting a manager who lost 22 games in a league season being a loser? Like, he was the loser. He lost 22 games. Like, I don't understand it, right? Like, this whole like notion of, yeah, just back Ange, give him a chance, right? All that is blind faith, right? Because there is no evidence for me to show that he will do well next season, he will do anything next season, right? It's all faith. If you admit it, then go for it, right? But stop calling other fans losers if they want to sack him, right? That's like, I don't understand this like approach of, you know, just fighting the whole fan base because they want him sacked. Like, I don't know, like,
yeah,
sorry,
like the probability of him winning another trophy in another season. And remember, the competition's harder. Champions League is like, remember, when is that Celtic?
We ain't winning the FA Cup, right?
Yeah,
Like,
the level's harder. We've got to face Premier League teams. You've got to face the Newcastle, the Liverpools. You've got to go for a run.
Semi-final against Liverpool, and they have fucking Verts,
Villa beat us in
Salah,
Cup.
and other guys, right? And we, like, sorry, but
even this now. Watch this now. When he had Celtic, he didn't win a single group game in the Champions League. He did not.
I know it's Celtic, right? But
yeah, we know it's Celtic, but we just know that level, when it comes to that level, he just didn't get any points on the board. So he admittedly said that I can't do 2 games a week. Do you know what I'm saying? You have to go for 1. So it would have been interesting, because remember, before you get to Champions League, before you get to FA Cup, because remember, FA Cup's not until like January. Who's to say he would have got to January? You get it? When you're playing 2 games a week, trying to manage the injuries as well. So it's a mad thing. I get it. Like, I understand why fans are pissed off, because on the face of it, it looks like we don't back trophies. We don't back managers that get trophies. So like, what do you have to do to be a Tottenham manager? Get top 4. What kind of mentality is that?
He lost 40 league games.
Bro, you know what's even worse?
40. It's fucking 40, guys. Like, it's not 13.
It's 61.
14, it's 40.
61 the first season goals, and 65 goals the second season. Brother, you can't concede that many goals.
Over the time he stayed for us as a Premier League manager, if I got this right, 76 games, 31 wins, 11 draws, 34 defeats. Okay, he got us the Europa Cup, fair play. But I'm sorry, Newcastle had a harder session winning the bloody League Cup than the Europa Cup.
Yeah.
We was favourites to win the Europa Cup. I know no manager has took us past it, but we was the favourites to win the Europa Cup for a reason. He done his bloody job. Apart from a rough game at Frankfurt, and beating Man U in a final is a bloody hard thing to do, because they've got it in their DNA. You can only play who you're playing against, but come on, it's not exactly like he works miracles, basically, is it? Realistically,
like,
fair play on what he done, but come on.
Dan, let's be honest, right? Can I say something quickly, right? Quickly. Just let's all 8 of us, right? Think about it for a second, right? What's more probable, Ange winning something next season and doing well in the league, or us being 12 by Christmas? What's more probable, right?
Us being 12
based on the evidence, right? Us being 12 and probably out of the Carabao Cup by that time, right? And like in the bottom 24 of the Champions League, right? That's the most likely scenario. So for me, like, there is no evidence to back this guy other than faith and being fair to him, which, okay, I am okay with it, right? But at least admit it, right? That you are just doing this because you want the guy to be in the, you want the guy to be given a chance, right? But there is no evidence for me, and I'm a guy that works on evidence, right? I have 18 months of evidence that this guy was shit in the league, right? And shit in most of the cups other than Europa League, right? Because we got dumped out of Carabao and FA Cup in the first season, right? Let's not forget about that. So, like, I don't know. It's just, for me,
it's only at Tottenham, isn't it? Sorry.
When we scored with Liverpool, why didn't he put 10 behind the ball?
We've waited 17 years for a trophy, 40 years for a European trophy. We actually win a trophy, and then there's.
But this is the thing. That's the only thing that
that's the crazy thing.
The only thing he's got above everyone else is that he got it over the line. We've been in many positions where we've made finals, we have made finals.
Fair play to him for that.
We pretty much
Thank
lost
you.
every single one of them. I know Mourinho won. I'm not even gonna blame
It
him
makes-
for that one. He got sacked. He got sacked before the final. We sacked the geezer.
No, well
after
done
the
for the
final.
cup. Well done for winning the cup.
The thing is, and I want to bring Matt in. Because he's back
Matt, feel free to jump in whenever you feel like.
But I just want to say this because I got to listen to the other streams, and I joked a little bit when I got on Dan's stream a little bit of just people crying and whatsoever. The tough thing is, it mostly hit me winning those trophies and trophies as winning the trophy. And facts is facts. Out of all those managers I just showed, other than Ramos, he brought a trophy, right? He said it, he did it. Where we say here over the States, we usually say that as one lucky motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like he got it, right? He rolled the dice with the Vegas. He brought it. He brought the trophy. And it's like
because the players told him how to bloody play.
Yeah. And but the thing is, you measure that
Well,
with the rest of his CV, his Spurs CV, and it's just like, this is so atrocious. And I said this in one stream. Out of the big six, because usually the big six, they fire their managers. They don't let them get to that level. He's one of the worst big six managers, Premier League, right? Because he did win the Europa. Ever. Like he is there.
Murray.
It's like the word that I get.
Murray. Always remember one thing. Always there was very, very poignant headline today in one of the papers I was reading. The game is about glory. Let's not forget about that.
Yeah. Oh, so that's what I'm saying.
Wait,
So
hold on.
No, you got glory versus.
I hear that.
No,
That's right. Let's not. It was a 50-50 season. It was a season of extremes.
No, I hear all of that. I hear all that. Wait, one thing no one's not mentioned. If this was Juan de Ramos, no. Listen, if Ange was called Juan de Ramos, would we have the same energy? I want to know. Can someone let me know? If this was Juan de Ramos,
it's a point because no. I'll say this quickly. I look at if I want to sum up Ange's career, the word I get, enigma. If you know what enigma is, because of glory versus atrocious fits in his resume. You don't usually have that, right? So it's like an enigma. You got glory versus atrocious within his resume. If you look at the whole picture of him, but Ramos, it's funny because and people forget he lost Berbatov. He lost. People forget. Like Levy gave him the bad rap. To say, but I think the charismatic, and for me, just me personally, and I take this into politics. I'm not a big fan of charismatic people. But Ange, like no other that has come to our club, very charismatic. That's why you have people crying as we speak that he's been sacked. Like, very charismatic. Like, he could probably go into politics if he
Charismatic is the wrong word. Charismatic is someone who walks into a room and it stands out.
Good because there's some charismatic characters that I wouldn't vote.
Sorry, Lubo's about to shoot off, but I just want to pick up on what he said. The game is about glory. What do we consider as glory then?
We see it different to the board season.
Was Bilbao not glory? Did we not win a European trophy this season? Listen, I'm happy he's gone. But let's
wait. Let's stay with that. Let's stay with that glory point. I like that. Who is more of a legend? Harry Kane or Ange Postecoglou? Let's go. Answer me.
Who, me?
Anyone.
Harry Kane, for sure.
But how? If the game's about glory, what has Kane done? That's glorious.
Say Ange.
I'm asking a question. Dan, let me know. Matt, let me know.
If you're talking about individual,
it's Ange, man.
I'll answer
You see
you.
what I mean? You see what I mean?
It's about glory. You just said it's about glory.
If you're talking about individual players, if you're talking about an individual, Kane is England's leading goal scorer. He's Tottenham's leading goal scorer. So individually, particularly for me, for my team, Kane was there a lot longer than Ange, and Kane's our highest ever goal scorer.
But Ange has brought you personal.
Happiness. All right, let's compare the managers. Let's compare the managers. Pochettino's considered as one of the best managers, and blah blah blah. And Mr. Box Office, just to give you one name, as always, where's my trophy, bruv? That's what he used to say. Okay. Where's my trophy, bruv? And that is what the butt of all memes, or the butt of all jokes that we as Spurs fans have been, is where's your trophy, mate? And now, have you noticed the day after Postecoglou got sacked, have you noticed that all your phones are blowing up? From Arsenal,
Iggy,
they come back now. They come back to rinse.
You a point. It's about trophies. It's about trophies. It's about cups. Yeah? I lay money on it. If he would have won the League Cup and finished 17th, the majority of people saying Ange wouldn't say a word. It is only because that Europa Cup got us the bloody Champions League that so many people bigged it up. Yes, there'll still be one or two out there would still be saying, yes, he got us that cup we wanted. Every game's relevant, isn't it? Every league game matters. Every cup is glory, isn't it? But I bet any money, if that would have been the League Cup, the majority saying Ange because he won the cup would be sitting here saying, cheers for the League Cup, but that ain't good enough. Baked potato, mate. See you later.
I've got to show Ash. Poch was the better manager. Ange has been more successful. Is that fair?
My argument is. My argument is.
No, that's not the question, bro.
Who's more the legend? Look at this. Who got higher? Who took Tottenham further at the better competition, the more skilled competition, the tier one? He got runners up in the tier one, and Ange got a winner's medal in tier two.
Scored in the final.
Is he
bigger than Kane? Because some people say those other managers are failure. Then you got to include Moussa Dembele, failure. As much as I love him, Papa Sarr, who assisted to this guy, club legend. Some people, not my logic, not my logic. But there's some people.
This is what I'm asking.
Let me just twist it.
Make it make sense.
So
all this glory narrative, glory. But look what Mari's doing. Look what he's doing to Dembele, the coach.
Do you know what? Ash, in 15, 20 years' time,
that's like saying, guys. That's like saying that this team is as good as the '84 team.
I want to twist it.
The difference is here. The difference is here that when the dust settles in 10, 15 years' time, when you'll talk to your grandkids, or we'll probably talk to our grandkids, all right, and we'll be telling them, look at Ange, we won't remember that with the 17th, it won't be remembered as much as what he delivered. The trophy. Johnson,
I will remember. He'll be
the one that delivered in the cup final. We came up with the goal that won us the trophy. Things like that in 20 years' time.
No, I accept that.
It doesn't matter how we won it.
They came to that. Like I said, they're gonna be talking about last
thing I'll say is that going back again, we need those glory days. We need glory days where the fan base isn't split with one manager in or out. We never heard this with Poch or Harry or Martin Yole, did we? These discussions just never started. We want a fan base that are united behind a manager. I've got to tell you something. I know we didn't win it, but when Poch came over to the fans 20 minutes after the end of the game in Amsterdam, it was as one. Everybody was one. It was the most fantastic feeling, being there, being part of it, singing. Everybody was together. And Jesus, have we been fractured since then? And we need to get back to that. Poch brought nothing. Listen, all depends, Ilmatic. We've won a trophy 10 years out of 65. So are you saying that we just dismissed the other 55 because they weren't, you know, people enjoy football isn't entertainment. People don't go, if people only went to football to follow a team that were going to win trophies, you wouldn't have a pyramid like you've got in this country, which is fantastic, which goes all the way down sort of 12, 13 levels. You know, if it was only about trophies. If it's only about trophies for you, then that's fair enough. But I enjoy seasons, and I enjoy watching Spurs even when they don't win a trophy.
Yeah,
because we're not entitled to a trophy. And don't ever think like that. Seriously, don't ever think we are entitled to a trophy. And if you don't have a trophy, Mari, then you're crap. Poch was not crap. Poch was a bloody good manager that did so much.
I agree with you. I'm just saying devil's advocate because there are those who say Poch failure, content failure. And then I'm like, okay, then you have to put that on their players, Dembele, Dele Alli, Eriksson, and put Papa Sarr.
If those two teams played each other, Maury, if those two teams played each other, I tell you something, Poch's team would win by 4 goals.
Yeah.
Oh,
can I quickly say something? Can I quickly?
Yeah. Then we'll go to Matt. Then we'll go to Matthews.
On the whole like legends thing and all that stuff, right? Like Poch was 90 minutes away from being one of the best managers this club has ever had, right? Ange, because of 90 minutes of football, went from the worst manager we ever had to a legend, right? I just don't
make it make sense.
Make it make sense, basically, right? Sense. Like for me, just saying that Poch was shit because he didn't win a trophy. Poch was fucking amazing, right? I think people forgot how good Poch was. Like,
I love Poch.
I don't understand it, right?
Redknapp is still he's my favorite manager because that's where, I mean, that was my early years of falling in love with the club. I still love Redknapp. I still love those players, Jermaine Defoe. But I'm just saying that there's some people, they have their logic, and it's just like, you laugh. It's just like, this guy is going to be bigger than Jermaine Defoe. And Jermaine Defoe is one of my favorite players. He's a bad man. He's an island boy. Jamaican. You know, he's an island boy. And I'm like, you know.
Make it make sense. Matt, what are you saying, man? What are you saying? The game's about glory.
That's another bad man.
Everyone's gone mad.
Bad man.
Guys, it's this thing.
See you later. Thanks, Lubo and Ashmatic. Thanks for coming on, boys. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, look, I think it's, you know, styles make fights, and it's a sum of all the parts. So I'm talking about England's greatest ever success is the 1966 World Cup, and for any historians out there, Jimmy Greaves and Jeff Hurst. Now, any student of football will tell you Jeff Hurst could not lace Jimmy Greaves' boots. Historical fact. But for that summer, Jimmy Greaves, who started the tournament under Sir Alf Ramsey, got injured in the group stage. And what happened is Alf Ramsey put in Jeff Hurst, who wasn't as potent in front of goal as Jimmy Greaves, but he was a workhorse. He worked for the team, he set up Bobby Charlton, and he'd get you the odd goal. So England went on and won the World Cup. Obviously, Jeff Hurst scores a hat-trick in the final. He's in the history books. But anybody that knows football will say Jeff Hurst could not lace Jimmy Greaves' boots. Yeah. But the record book shows Jeff Hurst is the guy. And it's the same with management and other examples. So Pochettino's CV, you know, how he created that Southampton team, that one of the most excited football teams of that period. He then took that onto Tottenham, got rid of the Adebayors and Kyle Nortons and those, and brought in Kyle Walker and introduced Danny Rose, introduced Bentaleb, all these youngsters, and then sprinkled in a Wanyama, brought in Toby, and all of a sudden, Vertonghen, who looked a little bit hesitant before, you put him alongside Toby, You then bring in Dembele and then bring in Wanyama alongside him, and then you've got the magic potion. So I agree with what Michael was saying, that I think Pochettino got the press who went after him because Spurs were an easy target by the press.
Yeah.
So a lot of false dawns and a lot of semi-finals and a lot of close shaves in the league. We got labelled as the nearly men, and the press come after him. And I think, unfortunately, our fan base started to repeat that. And before you know it, Pochettino's classed as not quite that good. Well, fast forward from 2019 to 2025, I know who I'd rather have kept, but hindsight's a valuable thing, and it's interesting because I think, my personal opinion, I think a lot of fans are going to turn on this new manager. The moment we go out of a Carabao Cup,
You think so?
A lot of Ange lovers are going to do it without a doubt.
100% Iggy. I wouldn't even, Dan, I'll stay away from this Ange lovers or Ange out. I'll stay away from that.
I get it, but it's part of it, Matt. It's part of the situation.
I think there's going to be a section of the fan base, the moment we lose 2 games, if we get, I don't know, Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League and we get beat.
Super Cup. Straight after the Super Cup.
I think he'll get a pass. I think he'll get a pass for the Super Cup.
I think even the most illogical.
I think he'll give him a pass for that. But I think, say we get Borussia Dortmund on a Tuesday and we've got Everton away on a Saturday. We lose those 2 games. Put on YouTube. I guarantee you. Not having to go, but
I'm not saying out.
But that's almost like agenda driven, though, isn't it? It's not.
Let me ask you a question. Let me put a question across then. I'm not question across to everyone.
Iggy, I'm not knocking, but we've just lost our last 2 games. Blah 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 blah. You know what's coming.
The question I've still got with Ange is like, let's just put this straight. After the first 10 games, we went downhill and fell off a cliff, basically. We might as well jumped off a 50-story building and we would have we'd have been done before we hit the bloody floor, yeah? So if this 90 minutes that Ange had that won us the cup, fair play, credit where it's due, he deserves another chance. Now, if I'm going to be morally correct, he deserves another chance. But then Timo Werner had a crap season as well. What if Timo Werner would have played in that game and scored the hat-trick and won us? Does he now deserve another chance as well? Because he's done it for the moment.
That silence.
Preach, brother, preach.
If you go and live on morals, I'm sorry, when it comes to sport, when it comes to business, you don't make emotional decisions. You don't make moral correct decisions.
Amen.
It's dog eat dog. You got to do what is right to get further. It's basically the same question. Ange was shit in the league for nearly 2 years. Yes, he got us the cut. Brilliant, appreciated. Werner was shit for 2 seasons. Well, a season and a half with us. If he goes and scores a hat trick, so then through morals, like people are saying, doesn't he deserve another chance?
Yeah. So go on, Iggy.
No,
people like to pick their morals.
It's they're all good takes, man. At the end of the day, it's one of them ones, isn't it? Because he's given. It's like, in the league, it was just like there was. The thing is, it's frustrating because if he had just adapted a little bit to the situation, because he was thrown to so many different situations, injuries played a part, and the statement said, in January, they said they backed him over the injuries, they understood the situation, blah, blah, blah. But in the statement, they said, well, we kind of understand it, but it was not a good enough excuse for you not to get sacked. So that was really contradictory. So when we say, like, the flip-flopping and all of that from the players and the owners kind of did it as well. So it's you know what, if the shoe fits and all of that. But it's just frustrating because unfortunately, curveballs through the course of the season happen to every manager. It happens to every team. Injuries are part of some get dealt a harder hand than perhaps others, but it's all part of the football. It's called, for me, it's more the preparation, how you prepare for those situations. And people fans are not stupid. They would see that, you've tried different things and trying to be a little bit more pragmatic or a little bit more defensive because you feel a little bit more vulnerable. They would understand this. As soon as we get everyone back, we'll be a little bit more expansive. People will understand you cannot.
We got worse
the same way, more gung ho when you're really vulnerable. It's like it doesn't make. Like, there were so many situations, so many games. I mean, I'm thinking Brighton away. There were so many though that we was in an advantage position that turned into. To end up losing a game that we could have won, we ended up losing a game that we should have won, we end up losing instead of drawing. So many points lost here and there. I just think if you adjusted a little bit, you might have not finished 17th, you might have finished 10th.
Look at City, look at Villa.
Yeah, if you
as soon as 10th, we didn't play inverted wing backs, Iggy, we all of a sudden looked good.
And
as
also,
soon as we dropped back, and then he went back to his other way.
I'm glad you brought it up because. If he finished 10th and won the Europa, I think he'll be talking about Ange Postecoglou's manager still today. But what me,
Ange said that's not good enough either.
Listen. For me, I tell you where Ange lost me, and I've said this in the stream. I think Dan, you might have been there that night when we spoke about. I can't remember who else was there, but that Man City away. If you remember, we all spoke about it, and we had a stream, and I said. I watched Man City. We beat them 4-0, but then there was the excuse, Man City weren't at their best. Whenever
was
we
it Ange that done it, or they made us play it like that?
Whenever we play someone and we beat them, it's like the opposition weren't good enough. Like Man City were rubbish. We caught them at a good time. Every time we caught someone at a good time. But you know what? That night, what he did is we weren't like we went over there, and you're right. The inverted fullbacks became fullbacks. We played it all
because City pushed it on us so hard.
Yeah, we pushed it on them, and we did exactly the right thing. And I said, you know what? I thought we was brilliant tonight, but I'll wait to see the next 2 or 3 games. If what happened tonight, we will play the next 2 or 3 games. And what happened is in the next 2 or 3 games, we got everyone back, and he reverted back to the same. I thought, you know what? And that for me, and I remember it like it was today. I've had with this, I'm done with it. I'm done, and that's where I was.
100% same.
Yeah, and that for me, I'll never forget. So that's where I drew the line because I think as a manager, you're right. You need to. Someone mentioned it earlier on. You need to manage situations that arise. You need to adjust where he didn't adjust, adapt where he didn't adapt. Yeah. And for me, a manager has to do those things through the course of the season. And when the better times come and you got your best players back, then you can be more expansive. Then you can play more your way. And also, if someone's come in, and you mentioned Jed Spence, rightly so, he's done well. He did really well. And I saw him at Crystal Palace at home.
Where he was our best for 2 months, people were saying.
And he just looked disinterested. That, for me, was telling. I don't care if you done that interview with Rio Ferdinand, where he had his sunglasses on and all of that. It looked like, I don't care about any of that. For me, I judged him on the pitch. I judged a player on the pitch. If he talks shit on the side, or if he's Billy Big Bollocks, as if he comes on the pitch and he delivers, mate, you talk as much as you want. That for me is very telling. And unfortunately, there was too many situations like that for the course of the season. And for me, that's why I understand, and I've said this all the while, I understand the people today that are not happy with him gone because he's given us something that no other manager has ever been able to get over the line. And I understand why the people wanted him out. I get the 2 sides of the story. But I keep saying this, and I'll revert it back to them. When all is said and done, Ange and Ange, when all is said and done, for me, the fundamental issues are above them all. Yes, Matt. It's above them all, and unfortunately,
it's Murray's fault.
There's nothing there. There's not yet. It's not Murray. No,
Matt pointed out.
I'm sorry.
I think when we break it down, mate, and we get past the managerial side of it, we know as more than anyone else that under this ownership, man, it would never be about glory. I know we spoke about glory for about an hour now. It would never be about trophies because. Fundamentally, these guys are not interested in it. So it doesn't matter who delivers you trophies. It doesn't matter if you combine the two. At the end of the day, this club is all about revenue.
So that's what it's about then, Iggy. If what we need then basically, knowing what Levy's like. I mean, forget what should happen and what should be like this and we shouldn't be like that. We are what we are, and we know Levy is the problem, yeah? We know he ain't going to put the wages up. If he does, it's going to be by 10 grand at the most. We know he will spend a bit of money, but we all know what the problem is. So isn't it what we then have to do, whether it's what we should have to do or not, ain't my point. What we do have to do then is get a manager that can adapt with what he's got. With what we never. It shouldn't be like that.
Dan, we will never ever get top 6,
I know.
top 4, and the cup. It will never happen.
But what I'm saying is, we need a manager that can adapt.
Yeah, but Iggy,
we need a manager that can adapt best to the way
Have you
Levy
guys
puts it
ever?
on. Exactly like
We will never get the
Have you guys ever heard that term in Europe? Since you guys are on across the term in the States, we say basically we're a club, we're a dog chasing its own tail. Basically, that's Tottenham.
On the
that will forever be chasing our tail.
I have a question, right? Because
you guys said that term?
Yeah. But I have a question, right? You guys said that like top 6 and the trophy will never happen, right? Wasn't Poch like 90 minutes away from that, right? Twice, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah, but it is possible. It is. Yes,
Mike, we had a squad back then, and also what let him down in the end? What let fundamentally
it was
Pochettino
the
down?
ownership, right? But we somehow built this squad, right? So I'm saying that it's not impossible, right? It's just not probable, right? But
the probability of it is low.
Yeah, the probability is
like
low, right?
Tomato. It's not.
I would rather strive, and my aim be to get back to that Poch days rather than being 17th and winning a trophy, right? Because 17th, like I bet you players are looking at us right now and being like, no, I don't want to come to this cup. They finish 17th, right?
But
that could be another 24 years, Mike, right? Because
perhaps,
literally in his era, in Levy's era, it's taken 24 years to establish that once.
Yeah.
Or has it taken that long for the manager to get it right on the day? I'm sorry, you can't blame Daniel Levy for the fact that we haven't done certain things, because he obviously picks everything. We know that, yeah? And that is why I say, if Ange's going to get the credit for winning the cup, then Levy gets the credit as well. Because if everyone's going to slam him for everything he does,
for the fact that he kept him on a job.
Okay. We've had how many semi-finals under him? We've had how many finals under him where it came down to the day and it was either the manager got it wrong or the team didn't perform. On those ones, I'm sorry, you just can't put that final, if we make it to that final, on Levy. At the end of the day, it's the manager and the players who do it at the end of the day. They got to that final.
I get what you're saying, Dan, but can I ask, or at least say, we blame Pochettino for playing Kane, right? But Pochettino felt the pressure to bring Kane on so that, as that was his asset, his golden boy or whatever, or his only chance of maybe that's probably what was in his mind, right? That was his only chance of making sure that we had the best opportunity to win by playing a 30% ready Kane.
Well, then here I'll pick up Ange then, yeah? Ange didn't play Son when the pressure was on him.
Would have been better. Do you think he would have been in that position to make that call?
I still think I still think Poch would have probably played Kane, personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
But then that's another thing we got to give Ange credit for then, the fact that he decided not to play Son.
Yeah, 100%.
When it was on him.
That is a big call.
He had the bottle to do that. So other managers have got to finals and made mistakes, or players have. I'm sorry, you cannot blame Levy. What happens on that pitch.
Pochettino Levy does not made the wrong calls.
Levy does not say, I want inverted wing backs with men sitting on the halfway line. And then we concede the same goals every bloody game after game. I'm sorry, that one's down to the manager. Yes, we all know what we all know what Levy is. We all know it. But you can't blame everything on him of what happens on the pitch. I just try and be realistic here. Yeah, better chairman who wants more on the football side, better players, better this. But then we still can't give it a fact that we'd succeed because it comes down to the players and the manager on the day, not Levy. Levy is the bigger problem overall of this club, 100%. But on the day, who's the one who scores the goal? Who's the one who makes the save? Who's the one who says inverted wing backs or not inverted wing backs? That ain't Levy.
But he's the one. I guess my counter to that would be he would be the one blamed for having the quality, the level of quality on that pitch that either makes that correct decision or the wrong decision.
Well, we had enough quality on the pitch to beat Ajax and get to the final, and then Poch went and made the wrong decision by starting Kane instead of Mora. Who's that
I
down
would disagree.
Is that down to Poch or is that down to Levy?
I would disagree to say we had the more quality on that pitch. That was a frigging lucky game. That was.
No, I said we won the game.
We had the quality in that game.
We won the game against Ajax, and we went to the final. And he decided to play an unfit Kane instead of playing Mora, who had just scored a hat trick in the semi-final. Who is that down to? Daniel Levy or Poch?
Yeah, no, he made the wrong call. There's no two ways about it.
I'm not saying he made the wrong call, but
so if he can't always be down to Daniel Levy. No matter how much you hate him and despise the fella, yes, you can put a majority on him, but there's certain things that it ain't his control of who plays how on the pitch.
The lack of success over the 25 years, I can definitely say to him.
Right?
Sacking the manager 6 days before the final, I can definitely put on him.
Yeah, those ones, 100%.
There are situations that we can put on him.
Yes.
In that one example that you mentioned about Kane and Pochettino, I agree, man. I think that was a really good Liverpool side, I have to say as well, that year. And we was there. We was neck and neck. You know what I mean? We battered them at Wembley same season, if I remember correctly.
I was there.
Look at the state of our midfield, though.
Sorry?
Sissoko and
the state of our midfield that game.
Yeah, the key thing is
high probability we would have lost with Mora either way, right? But
the key thing is there which never got identified is in that January, Levy sold Moussa Dembele. Now, again, I keep Levy is. I sent a WhatsApp to people that Kaiser Soze from Usual Suspects. He has this magical skill that it kind of gets airbrushed. Like he does something which is so obviously a bad decision for Tottenham, but when it pans out and it ends up being a bad decision, the fan base look at the manager, or the fan base look at the player, or the fan base look at the result. But they don't look higher up the chain and go, but wait a minute, this guy sanctioned it. So Moussa Dembele, that was in the last 6 months of his contract, that was 31 years of age. Now, everybody in football, not just Tottenham players, not just Tottenham fans, opposing players, opposing fans say, Moussa Dembele, wow.
He was a great player.
How on earth does Levy get away with selling Dembele for £10 million in January when I am convinced had he have stayed at Tottenham in that Champions League run-in, we would have given a much better account of ourselves in both
Winks
and the final.
Poch got offered players and he turned it down. Yeah. And Poch even admitted that. So it might not have been the player he wanted, but it would have been a bigger squad.
Let's cover that first, Dan. I'll get to that, your point afterwards. Let's cover that point first. Why doesn't that seem to reach many channels or many conversations? Why doesn't any fan go, why did you sell Dembele? What do you think it's a relevant question?
Definitely.
He didn't want to sell him. He didn't want to lose him on a free. That's why he sold him. It's always money motivated. It's always he got 10 million rather than losing him for nothing. Yeah, and there was no way of him thinking in January that we was going to make that final because we didn't win a single away game that year. Or that certainly from January we didn't win a single away game, and we made that final. So it's really we didn't win away even in the Champions League. We didn't win away to make that final.
You could argue though that Kane missed. I think Kane had
Kane was a big part of it.
Kane had two ankle injuries.
And
he missed a good 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, and he was quite essential with the goals we were scoring.
Correct. So again, lazy press that say Tottenham didn't win an away game, but when you kind of examine it, you go, I get it. Dembele was injured for a lot. Kane, our talisman, missed most of those games. I tell you what. Get Dembele fit, get Kane fit. I bet you those away results change pretty quickly.
But this is what I'm saying, that we as a club, as the ownership, would always focus more on the financial side.
On the business, that's what they are.
Ahead of anything.
Man
Ahead of
City
anything,
don't.
because we didn't. If you remember who we played in the final, we're thinking, how's Dembele not here? But also knowing that Dembele, we were going to sanction that sale, like you rightly say. The replacement for Dembele was who? But what also, Matt, that question, that super chat that was up.
Yeah. Don't put back up.
Would you take Young over Levy?
Yeah, man. He would demand success. He would demand it.
Yeah.
Levy is a bit of it's just like, the fan base with Levy is pretty much divided to the extent that it is with Ange right now.
I don't understand why it's divided.
Well, look, that's a problem. The way I try and do things, I mean, each their own. I try and understand your point, as in anybody. If I can't understand your point, I at least try and get your point, to see why is that your attitude.
Why am I
it
saying
don't mean it don't mean I've got to agree with it, but I at least put the effort in trying to get the point. I find too many people that despise Levy, and I ain't his fan either. They don't even want to look at the other point. They just want to say Levy out, Levy out, Levy out, and that's all they say. And then people go and look at people like that and just think, well, you're not looking at the positive stuff he has done, because there is some positive stuff he has done. And no matter what happens, as all you're saying is Levy out, Levy out, Levy out, you're narrow-minded, mate. I don't want to listen to you anymore. I think if people were a bit more, when they spoke about him in the aspect of, right, on the football side, he's been a terrible manager, he's been a terrible coach overall, he's got it wrong 90% of the time. Yes, one or two things he's got right, but as a football coach, don't want him. But for the stadium and the business side, and making Spurs from one of the roughest clubs about to the 8th biggest, richest club in the world, you got to give him credit. But people don't do that. People only sit and slate him off. And then that gives people who might be on the fence a bit of an attitude of, well, you're not looking on both sides of it. You're only being narrow-minded onto your side. So I don't even want to hear your side either. This is where I feel people need to try and get another person's point. You ain't got to agree with it.
Which is absolutely fair, Dan. But as a football fan, do you go support them, go to the games, go to all of that because of a great big stadium or beer coming up from the bottom, or the fact that he's made us the 8th richest club in the world, or anything like that? We go there and follow this and do all of this because of the football.
But it's all part of the package, like it or lump it. Football is a business, so same as it is a sport. Whether we like it or not, finishing top 4 for 3 seasons is going to get you further as a club, if you've got a chairman who wants to go further, than finishing 10th, 11th, 12th and winning 2 FA Cups and the League Cup. Okay. Players are more likely to go. Money is more likely to come in. Yet forget Levy for the moment. Say we've got a chairman that wants us to go somewhere. We would get further as a club with players we could attract, managers we could attract, money we could attract by finishing top 4 for 3 years than finishing 10th, 11th, 12th and 2 FA Cups and the League Cup. Okay. It shouldn't be like that.
But can't.
It is. And I don't like it.
You can't say forget Levy because that's what we want.
No, I'm giving an example of football as a whole.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, you're saying forget Levy if we had a chairman that did this, but that's the chairman that we want, as opposed to the chairman that we've got.
I agree, but I was just talking about football as a whole in general. Yeah. Forget.
I think the key thing.
I will 100% say, and I've been an advocate.
But Levy is the problem that we go no further. I agree.
I've been the advocate for having a stadium and not doing anything in it for 13 days in a fortnight is just a waste of a piece of property. So I absolutely, totally admit and advocate the fact that, do you know what?
That last bit you said.
Idea using the stadium on other days for other things, right? Fabulous, great idea. Hotel, brilliant. All of that, fantastic ideas. But all of that revenue, all of that additional revenue really needs to be reused because, do you know what? The name at the top of the door is football club. Irrespective of these are side businesses, right? Whereas as opposed to the chairman who's there now, what he's currently making and made is it's not really about the football club. These side events are the company. right?
It's
I
like
agree.
the Tottenham Hotspurs
And
side of it.
as opposed to it being the company, and I think that's the hatred that everyone has. The fact
I
that
totally.
I've been there way more than before him, and for a hell of a lot of fans have been there since pre-war and all of that. Whereas it was about the football, and that's the whole point of it being was a football
totally
club, right?
get where you're coming from. That it is what we want. But then you look on the other side, we are one of what, maybe 3 or 4 clubs on this planet that can support ourselves through finishing 10th for 3 seasons, not winning nothing, not getting in the Champions League, and also not having to sell players. Tottenham can actually support itself. A majority of other clubs can't do that. Do I like the way it is? Do I like the cap? Should we be spending more money? Of course I do. I want the football side. As all I try and do is look at both sides of a situation. And I feel too many people only want to see one side. Whether people like it or not, business is football these days. Football is more business than a bloody sport.
I would just like to see a bit more parity. That's all.
It shouldn't be like
that. More.
I
want
absolutely
to see more going into the football side.
Dan,
But
I agree with you, solely agree with you, right? But all I'm saying is that also this comparison of, oh, you know, we're not like Everton or we're not like any other club. In a way, I don't care about other clubs, right? They're not in London. I'm not going to compare myself to Burnley or Everton or Leicester or any of those clubs because they're not Tottenham Hotspur.
The prices you pay for it is not exactly the same, is it?
They're not my heart, right? I understand that what I want from my football club is to have watch good football, to have good players, to be able to compete at that level.
But JP, also because you're a season ticket holder, you pay good money every year.
Yeah.
So
I'm making right.
Michelin prices, man.
And I'm not happy that Ange comes out and says
Michelin food
off the league for a cup.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I'm
I
not
totally
happy
agree.
about that.
But then we all want stability on the financial side as well. The problem is at Spurs, we just can't seem to get it both bloody ways. Yeah. Like other clubs do. But then you look at other clubs, they're in trouble financially or whatever, but they find a way around it as such, because in the Premier League is where the money is. And especially
Man United,
if you're
prime example would be Man United, right?
Here's something I said before the game, yeah? This game was make or break for Spurs, not Man United. Man United didn't win the cup. Okay, that hurt a little bit, but they've got enough in their trophy cabinet to say, do you know what, bollocks, we'll win it another day, yeah? But I said Man United, it won't affect them not being in the Champions League, really. Not like it will us, because Man United will still go out and pay the wages, still go out and spend the money, and still be able to attract bigger players than us, even if we win this and get in the Champions League, and they've just gone and bloody done it. We all know on the football side, Levy is a problem. He don't want to take it that step further. But on the business side of a chairman, whether people like it or not, he's probably one of, if not the best on the planet. And it's just we want him to put more effort into that other side as well. Now, if I had a choice of a new chairman, I would quite happily have a new football chairman in there who focuses on the football. But then I'd quite happily keep Daniel Levy at the club and say, right, you stick with the business, you ain't coming near the football, mate. And that's that, because he is that good at the business. But people never acknowledge him on that side. And that is why a lot of people who are on the fence look at the Levy out and just think it's one-sided and don't pay attention to it. You've got to look at both sides.
I would slightly disagree. I would say I don't think people don't acknowledge him for that. I think everyone you ask will say he's a fantastic businessman, but he needs to stay away from like the football side of it.
I see a lot of people say he's a terrible businessman as well.
Wow. Personally, I would say everyone would say he's a fantastic businessman for doing what he's done, building the stadium, all of that palaver. But from the football side of it, from what me and I think fans care about, is the reason for him not being there anymore.
I agree.
If we were to take anyone as a chairman tomorrow, I would personally, my view would be I would take that opportunity, because I've seen what he's done for the last 24 years on the football side. For what I pay for, it's not good. I would take the other side.
I agree.
Is to dare is to do, right?
But at least you just sat here and acknowledged.
You don't know what you get.
I'm gonna let Matt say something, and then I will say something, because we're gonna wrap it up.
All right, last bit I just want to say then. At least you just sat there and acknowledged a positive side to it, yeah? And that's just what I feel a few people need to do more of, to open up the argument, basically, of why you want Levy out. If people hear more of both sides, I think you will get more people take Levy out seriously. Because a lot of people just look at Levy out and just think, oh, you just hate him no matter what. Same, for instance, as Ange deserved to go because he wasn't good enough, but he gets credit for the cup. But everyone was grilling Ange for doing crap in the league. And then where did it go back to on this channel, my channel, other channels? It always goes back to the top. Daniel Levy employed him. It's his fault that we're doing crap in the league. Well, Daniel Levy adapted his ways, kept Ange, whether it was for the right reason or the wrong reason. Ange won us the cup. So then people got to turn around and say Levy gets credit for that as well. But they turn around and say, no. Levy don't get no credit for that, but he still gets the shit that Ange was doing shit. You got to do it both ways for people to take it seriously. I want the football side, and I agree with you. But you got to look at both sides.
Matt, go ahead, and then I'm going to...
That's the last I say on it.
I just want to say, for me, it's very simple. I think we've got enough of a rap sheet on Daniel Levy. This isn't assigned to one manager where you could say, oh, he fell out with that manager, that's why he pulled the purse strings. We've got Harry Redknapp when we were third in the league in January and we were knocking on the door and he wanted Carlos Tevez and Gary Cahill, and he gets Ryan Nelson and Luis Saha. You know, there's too many examples of Levy making the wrong financial decisions. You know, you're talking about Pochettino was offered players that he didn't want. If you examine that down in more detail, the Pochettino that Levy hired wasn't the Pochettino at the end. His stock had risen so high, he was getting so much gas, so much accolades within the football community that he started to think, hey, you know, I'm beginning to be somebody. So you couldn't come to him with Gedson Fernandes when he wants Bruno Fernandes towards the end, because he started to perform so well. He started to be a manager that other clubs are going, this guy's got something. So he was no longer going to accept Stambolis and Fazios. He wants Bruno Fernandes, not Gedson Fernandes. Do you understand?
But if he knew his squad wasn't big enough, shouldn't he have accepted a player or two on loan to take him for the meantime, just in case?
No, I think he got to that level, Dan.
No, I get what you're saying.
I think he got to that consistent level. Don't forget, Poch never finished out of the top 5 in any of his 5 seasons. That's consistency, with a wage bill massively lower than all the others, with a net spend massively lower than the others, playing nearly 2 seasons away from Tottenham Stadium. So I think he had earned the right to say to Levy, I don't want Gedson Fernandes. I want Bruno Fernandes. That's the fucking player I want. I want Jack Grealish. Don't fuck about a day before the end of the transfer window. I want Jack Grealish. Grealish on the Wednesday, his last game for Villa, my friends are Villa fans, he waved. He thought he was going to Spurs. What's Levy do? Do you know that 15, 20 million up front? I tell you what.
He wouldn't do it. And that is Levy's problem.
I'll give you Josh Onoma as part of it, and then we'll get and Villa win.
And that's where Levy screws up.
Dan, forgive me when I've got too much of a rap sheet on Levy to go. It don't wash.
I'm not Levy-ing at all, yeah? And I make you right on what you said. But then I also think a manager knows when he's got 5 or 6 people, big injuries, whatever, and his squad is at its lowest, whether it's the right thing or sometimes you just got to take a player to bloody put it there to kill the dot for the meantime. Sometimes that's what you got to do. That's why sometimes youth players get played. That's why sometimes Mikey Moore had to get played this time. Why do you think Archie Gray saw many bloody games? Because sometimes managers don't really have much of a bloody option except to put a weak player on the pitch. But you think with the situation, he wanted to win it, so he wanted better players. You're right on what you're saying. I'm not making
you have to have a separate show on that.
Yeah, we could go back and
forth. The only thing I will say, I said the word, and you guys can look it up in the dictionary, enigma. Because as earlier, I give him credit for firing Ange and the process, but he brought in Scott Mung and Lang. You know what I'm saying? And so that's like, that we talk about quality. Matt talked about the quality of players we got in. Look who we brought in, Scott Mung, Lange, who is still with us, but I don't know, he may be sacked on Monday. So, it's an enigma. This club is an enigma. It's just a dog chasing its tail in regards to everything that we do. And so it's terrible. We may find out we have a manager on Monday. We need it to happen ASAP because everybody's going shopping. We haven't left the door.
Season 3.
But it almost doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter about the manager, does it?
Who do you want? Who do you want, Silva or Frank?
Out of the two, I'll say Frank.
Mickey Mouse.
What a Glasner. I would take Frank over Silva. If it's between those two, and because I think Frank would do well with the kids. Where we get another 19-year-old, who's from Scandinavia. So, yeah. Anybody that could work with the kids, because it seems like we're just buying kids.
And he's got 4 years Premier experience as well. And
yes,
that is what a lot of people say they want in a manager, Premier League experience. A lot of people do say that.
Yeah. And I didn't like the job Silva did at Everton. But then again, some managers, the first time it doesn't go well. And my homegirl on X, Tam, said this best. We kind of have that same feeling towards Poch when he was at Southampton. Oh, mid-table manager. And Pep has even spoke glowingly of Frank and says, oh, when he gets his chance, he's going to be serious. So, Frank, this is your time. This is your show us what you got.
Iggy, what about you?
What's that, mate?
Name
what about you?
If out of the two, if I have to pick out of those two, I think Glasner would have been perfect for me for the reasons I mentioned earlier. Europe experience. He's brought a trophy home. He's brought in a domestic cup home, and I think he's on an upward trajectory. And I think this would have been a good time to really go and get him. It hasn't happened for goodness knows why. So. So if it has to be out of Silva and Frank, I'll choose Frank for the reasons that you've all given today. Really, I think out of the two, I think he's more prepared for his next move. And we'll have to see, man. I have my reservations, but like I said, I'm for the. I'll back whoever the new manager will be. It's not him that I'll be looking towards. Like you guys know very well where my eyes will be at in the next coming weeks. But we shall see, guys. We shall see. Before we go, guys, I just want to mention big thank yous to all the super chats that come in. Thank you, Ghosted. Thank you, Declan. Sunil, Mike Pepper. And John, big up to every single one of you. Just want to say big up to everyone who's locked in, tuned in throughout the show. I know people come in and out, dips and in and out, but big up to every single one who commented, and big up to everyone who's been involved in the panel, in the chat, in the comments, wherever. Final thoughts before we shoot off, guys. We'll start with Dan. Dan, any final thoughts, mate?
It is what it is, basically.
In terms of new manager and all of that.
It is what it is, basically. I think Frank is a very good idea for the sheer fact if Ange would have been in charge of Brentford, Brentford would have got relegated, in my opinion. To do what he's actually done deserves credit. It's the same situation as why does a goalkeeper or a defender never get the same credit as a midfielder or as a striker for the Ballon d'Or? when you can say that they've had a excellent season as such. You obviously get credits for winning cups, winning leagues, and everything else, but then surely managers also deserve credit for being able to get a team like Brentford up and keep them up for 4 years and keep them mid-table. That's not an easy job on its own. And if we're all going to sit here and big off Poch and everything for what he'd done for obvious reasons, well, we got him off of Southampton and he didn't have a name for himself. I think Frank is a sensible idea. I think he'll be able to deal with the cards he's got better. If it is a youth project we've got, do I even believe there's a project? Not really. But if it is, I think he's definitely a good idea of the sort of manager for it as well. And I think he will be able to progress the players, whereas Ange regressed every player, bar maybe Johnson and Bergvall. So I think Frank is a good idea. But I would rather go Glasner out of choice. But that one's not going to happen, I don't think.
New projects, here we come. Matt?
We shall see.
Final thoughts. Yeah, I think it was inevitable in the end. I think the change of manager. I'll reserve judgment. I'd probably go for Frank over Silva. I think Silva's got that bit temperamental. I'm not sure how him and Levy would, after a couple of transfer windows, I'm not sure how that would play out. So I'm going to go with Frank. He seems to be very good in front of the camera, which Levy likes. He's not combative in interviews. I think he's got a very good contact pool in the Scandinavian market with his background with the Danish FA. So again, Levy's thinking this guy's not going to come to me with 50, 60 million pound players to sign. So again, I think he ticks a lot of boxes. He's experienced in the Premier League. So let's see how it goes. But I've said to you before again, I'll say it again. After the first couple of defeats, put on YouTube.
I don't want to.
Not having a go. I'm not knocking.
It's what he's predicting. That's fair enough. We shall wait and see, man.
If it's up to me,
I'm sure you'll remind us all, man. Mike, I don't know if you're still there, mate. But if not,
I was just going to say really quickly. If it's up to me and choice of manager, I would, because we've got in the Champions League, I would get Conte back and I would back him. That's what I want.
That would be my dream.
Never going to happen, man.
Thomas Frank with this palaver.
And risk
we're going to be middle of the road again.
Southampton post-match again. Never going to happen, man.
Then the fans will start complaining about the Dross football, but we just saw Dross football.
What's the bet we get Napoli? Right? What's the bet we get Napoli in the Champions League?
How did Napoli do?
Oh yeah.
We'll probably get Napoli. We'll probably get Jose. We'll get them all. We'll get them all. Don't worry. Michael, we're just finishing up, man. Any final thoughts on who you'd like the next manager to be? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, yeah, my mic was muted. Sorry. Who I would like is Glasner, but we won't get him. We will probably get Frank. I am okay with Frank, but as I said at the beginning of the show, I fear that he doesn't have enough gravitas behind his name. And I fear that parts of the fan base will be on his case since minute one. But I am okay with that appointment. I think listen, I was jobless for best part of last 2 years. I was watching vast majority of Premier League matches. You can trust me on that, right? So I watched a lot of Brentford over past 2 years. And I can tell you that what Frank has done at that club is something remarkable, in my opinion, to bring such a small club, with all due respect to Brentford, right? But they are tiny compared to any other Premier League club, right? To bring them to mid-table, stable Premier League club is something that should be praised, right? And yes, I know he doesn't have the the history behind him, so that we can say that he will do well in these cups, that cups. I know he never won anything, right? But I think what I saw from him is tactical flexibility, man management, training of players, developing youngsters, bringing in some of the best attacking players that are going throughout the league, like Mbeumo, Watkins, and other guys came from under his wing, right? So I am hopeful with him. I won't have much expectations for the upcoming season, but I don't think it will be as bad as some people think it will. I think we will perform much better in the league. And I think I would listen, whoever the next appointment is, by the way, I just want this club to be respectable on the pitch again, because I think for the 90% of this past season, this club has just been getting abused on the pitch, and we weren't tactically set up to fight against the opposition. I just want the manager to respect the opposition and set us up in a way so that we can win every single match we approach, rather than pushing through their philosophy and just disregarding the injuries and the opposition and disregarding every other circumstance and just pushing through the philosophy. I just want the club to be flexible, right, and respectable. And even if we lose matches, if we do our best to try and win the match, I'm okay with that. That's how I look at it.
JP.
All right. The JP go? Yeah. You want? Okay. Yeah, we're gonna end the stream. I am knackered. And so it was a great show. I want to give a shout out to those in the chat. First couple minutes, it was but the rest of the way, you guys were well behaved. That's all we ask. And you guys stick to the points. And when we have that, we have great shows. I know a couple people say great show was very civil. That's what we always try to do, make it civil, professional talk, because everybody has different opinions. And so that's why we love what we do. And so hopefully this weekend, you guys enjoy your weekend. Hopefully we'll get a manager in on Monday. And hopefully we could buy some seasoned veterans rather than kids. But other than that, we are out. Levy out. Come on.
Time for change, guys. Time for change.
100.
The first game we look for, Robbie. Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away. Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away.